Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horror Talk with myself and my lovely co host, Vineyardtrio. Tonight, we will be discussing various ghosts from the game Phasmophobia, what the lore is in the game, and also their real world counterparts. And after that, if we have time, we are going to play a round or two of Phasmophobia so that we can show you guys what exactly we're talking about. So, yeah, I am ShinyMikablu. I am a horror streamer here on Twitch. I play a lot of indie horror games, and I co-host this talk show. Jan, want to say a little something about yourself?
Um, I'm Jan of Vineyard Trio, and I don't stream right now because internet issues. Yay! Um, yeah, I got really nothing other than that. So, when I do stream, it's usually a variety of games, whether it be horror, FPS, whatever, blah 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 blah. Yeah, all the fun stuff. I kind of mix it up. Sometimes I even cook on stream. Who knows? We'll see when internet gets better. And also, Jen technically was first, so.
Jen technically was first. So sorry, just want to say sorry about the delay in starting the stream. There was some technical difficulties with OBS not picking up my voice, which I think has been kind of resolved. So, I mean, I'm hoping you can still hear me. OBS is saying that you guys can hear me. So we were a little bit rushed, so we do apologize for that. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to get some music going so that it's not just us talking with nothing else in the background. So Janet, why don't you take a couple minutes to just really explain better about what the show is and what we're going to do tonight.
So, if anybody is new here, we obviously are Horror Talk, where we do talk all things horror, and that's anywhere from books, games, movies, you name it. If it's horror or horror themed, we love to talk about it. Um, And tonight, obviously, as the title states, that we're going to be talking about Phasmophobia, and I'm pretty sure Mickey even said so. We are going to be talking Phasmophobia, and not just the game itself. We're also going to be talking about the ghosts in Phasmo, um, trying to discuss where their origins came from, kind of give you a brief history on the fact that not all the ghosts in Phasmophobia are made up names. They are legitimate ghosts. And we wanted to tell everybody and kind of discover ourselves where they came from, when they started, and what they're about, and see where the similarities and differences between the ghosts in Phasmo and real life come together and marry, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think I could have put it better myself. That is exactly what we're doing tonight. And everyone in chat, if you could let me know how the music sounds compared to our voices. On my end, it's fairly soft and just kind of like background music. And it looks like an OBS is saying the same thing. So, yeah, let's go ahead. I hear no music.
And
You should be able to hear music. It's being picked up through OBS. I mean, it is very, very soft, so.
I know I hear no music, but that's because I have the stream turned down to like this.
Yeah,
this much
that's
sound.
because limitations on Discord.
Right.
But yeah, regardless, there is music playing. I do apologize if you can't hear it. But we are going to go ahead and get right into it.
Spoopy background noises.
Spoopy background. So the very first ghost that was introduced in Phasmophobia is simply known as the Spirit. The description in Phasmo reads, very common ghosts. They are very powerful but passive, only attacking when they need to.
Yep.
So I think...
We said that we were also going to discuss their strengths and weaknesses, and according to the Wikipedia, I can't remember how accurate their Wikipedia has been updated to the new ghosts or not. It looks like they have them on here, but the strengths for the spirit in game, they have none, and their weaknesses are smudge sticks, which are very effective, and it prevents the hunt from happening longer.
Yep, definitely. So what a smudge stick is in the game is basically it's like a bundle of, I think it's supposed to be sage. I think that's
Yes.
what's typically used in real worlds, like to cleanse evil spirits out of an area. So I do believe it is sage. What happens is you light it with a lighter, and if the smoke touches the spirit, then the spirit is stunned and will not chase you for a specific amount of time. I do believe it is 6 seconds. Although for a spirit, it may be different. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
I can't remember the exact time frame either. It's changed so much recently.
yep. So as Phasmophobia states, spirits are very common ghosts. They are basically the stereotypical disembodied disembodied spirit. I don't like using the term of something to describe that thing, but I mean, you all know what a spirit is. Basically, just like humanoid in shape, humanoid in look, generally resembles what the person looked like as they died, from my understanding. And like Mechanical Whimsy here says in chat, is generally for the sage, generally white sage. I saw generally white and immediately thought, that's what spirits look like. They tend to look like translucent, ghostly, pearly white color. At least that's common lore.
Yep. So the spirit is typically between the lore of what a spirit is and Phasmo spirit, it's typically the same. The only difference is in Phasmo, you don't see when the ghost is hunting, you don't see a wispy spectral coming at you. You see, a scary looking figure come at you. But its description is saying that it's a common ghost. It's very similar to the lore as spirit is your typical ghost. Like when someone's talking about ghosts, a lot of times they'll use ghosts and spirits synonymously.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it's become in modern folklore. Ghosts and spirits are used interchangeably. They are meant to represent the same thing. A ghost is typically defined as any disembodied spirit.
Yes. I know that there was the one thing I found on spirits that I thought was interesting, that it entered the English language via American English, not Old English, in the 19th century. So I thought that was pretty interesting. A fun fact for you.
Really? That recently?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, and it appeared in literature as early as Homer's Odyssey.
See, that doesn't really surprise me. I really thought the term spirit was a much older term, although I guess
Right.
modern English is a modern language. So, yeah, let's see.
I guess next we can go on to the Wraith, because the first few are our typical ghosts.
Yeah. Although I do want to mention one more thing about the spirit. In the research that Jan and I have done, like Jan said, spirits appear in literature as early as Homer's Odyssey, which specifically features a journey to the underworld and the hero encountering the ghosts of the dead, and as well as in the Old Testament itself, in which the Witch of Endor summons the spirit of the prophet Samuel. I believe it was King Solomon that used the Witch of Endor.
I want to say yes.
Regardless, that is in the Old Testament. We do not know exactly where. But yeah, if you want to look it up, if anyone wants to look it up and try to find it before our show ends, then we would be very grateful for that.
Yeah, give us some fact checks. Look at that. See, Snowy was able to redeem first.
Snowy,
because there was nobody else.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, no one else at all. We're not talking to anyone. We're just here talking to ourselves.
The whole time.
All right. So that was spirit. So let's move on to the wraith. Why don't you tell us the definition of wraith?
So the definition, according to Phasmophobia for the wraith, it is one of the most dangerous ghosts you'll find. It is also the only known ghost that has the ability of flight and has sometimes been known to travel through walls. With strengths and weaknesses, strength being it does not leave UV footprints after stepping in salt, of course, with the flight. And its weaknesses is it will become more active if it steps in the salt. Or hovers, rather.
Yep, absolutely. So the way that translates in game, saying that wraiths almost never touch the ground, is they do not have footsteps. So when they are hunting, when they are doing a ghost event, or what's known as a haunt, where it looks like they're starting a hunt, but it really isn't, it's kind of like they're trying to fake you out, you will not hear their footsteps. Which is really interesting because from everything that I know about wraiths in modern folklore is they are generally floating spirits. They do not touch the ground, they fly through the air. They usually hover about like 2 or 3 feet off the ground. And in every piece of artwork that I know of that I've seen a wraith in, I have never seen legs or feet. It's always been kind of just like a wispy dress, and like that's where it stops.
Dress or cloak, or it looks like it's torn off basically. And Snowy, they do not leave salt prints. That is their strength, is that if you take your UV light in Phasmophobia, and after you see quote unquote salt prints, because you'll see like a step in the salt, when you take your UV light, sometimes when you are in other games without a wraith, you'll see, using your UV light, footprints walking away from the salt. That's one good way to know that it's a wraith almost automatically, is that when you do that and you see a footprint, you take your UV light and there's no footprints walking away from it, typically your brain's like, oh, it's a wraith.
So the thing is, they do actually leave footprints in salt because that is a mechanic of the game. There are optional objectives, and one of them is to have a ghost step through salt. So if there was a ghost that literally could not do that, the players would kind of be screwed for that.
Oh yeah. Could you imagine? That would be awful. It'd be a wraith, and your objective: have the ghost walk through salt. It floats. Try to put salt on the wall. It just no.
So yeah, they do actually leave footprints in salt because that is a game mechanic, but they do not leave UV footprints behind. Correct. So that is a very good way to figure out if you're dealing with a wraith almost immediately after they walk through salt.
Yep. And as you pointed out about and even Snowy, a flowy gown, it's the definition that we found was it's like a specter or an apparition. So like typically when you hear, like if you're watching a ghost hunt on TV or something, and they're like, oh, and I saw a wispy apparition, typically that's your first thought of like a wraith, is the apparition, where it's just disembodied mist, so to speak.
Yep, that's exactly right. And from our research, we couldn't find an exact definition of what a wraith really is, or not definition, origin. But the best we can guess is the origin of the word wraith just comes from the Scottish term for ghost, spectre, apparition. It appeared in Scottish Romanticist literature and acquired the more general or figurative sense of omen. And for anyone who doesn't know what an omen is, it is basically a sign of impending doom. Not necessarily doom, but something bad is going to happen. A bad sign. Yeah, a bad sign, basically. And interestingly, I didn't know this, in 18th and 19th century Scottish literature, it sometimes also applied to aquatic spirits specifically.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting, that it's not only ghostly apparitions of like smoke and wisp, but it also applied to their aquatic spirits. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where that really came from, but I mean, like you said, very interesting. And yes, Snowy, the commands like for bait and shrimp and stuff like that, those are turned off for the show. Right. Next on our list, I believe, is Phantom.
Yes. So, with a phantom, according to Phasmophobia, their definition is a ghost that can possess the living, inducing fear into those around it, most commonly summoned from I'm sorry, Wawega, I mean,
Ouija board.
Ouija boards. I had to. And God, I cracked myself up. I'm the funniest person I know. Phantom's strengths are if you look at the phantom, it'll lower your sanity considerably. Its weakness is if you take a photo of the phantom, it will cause it to briefly disappear. Wow, Ouija board.
Wawega board.
Wawega?
And the real world definition of phantom, as far as we could tell, it came into the English language via the French word, or the French translation of the word phantasma, which it kind of makes sense. Phantasm, phantom, very, very similar words.
Yes. The Ouija board. And yeah, I think it's interesting that it's the phantom comes from phantasma, and when you think of a phantom ghost as far as like lore or real life, it's not something that's very common. No one's like, oh, and we saw a phantom. I think that's very more like Scooby-Doo-esque, so to speak.
Without
Where you
the
would
real
hear the
world
word
person underneath
phantom.
the mask.
Right. Like that's whenever I hear phantom, I think very much like it's someone playing ghost. It's not real. So I thought it was interesting how we couldn't really find too much lore when it came to a phantom because it's such a vague word and has multiple meanings across the English language that as far as ghosts go, it's really almost non-existent. And I like how Phasmo kind of took that and turned it into an actual ghost with a meaning and everything else.
Yeah, I do too. And it kind of works with Phasmophobia because the ghosts in Phasmophobia, when they start to hunt, they almost look like illusions. They kind of like flicker in and out of existence. And then when you get close to them, they kind of get, I don't want to say glitchy, but that is how it looks because like your vision starts like getting glitchy and your camera when you try to take a picture will have like interference, like glitchy interference.
Yeah.
So like to me, phantoms are like almost illusory rather than like actually being there. I know the whole thing about ghosts is they're incorporeal, they're not physical beings. They are, for lack of a better term, spiritual beings. But I think that definitely applies more with Phantom than anything else. Because when I think of Phantom, I think of something like almost like a shadow rather than like something more defined, like a vaguely humanoid, shadowy blob, effectively.
Ooh, yeah. See, that's good.
And that's, I mean,
almost that makes me think like Grim Reaper-esque phantom.
yeah, kind of what I have in mind, but like less defined, like kind of like blurry around the edges, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah,
like my first thought is that Grim Reaper would be more of a phantom than anything because it's got no face. It's just like a black misty cloak with a scythe.
Yep.
So to speak.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's actually a pretty good mental image of Phantom.
And let's go update the wiki for Phantom. It is the Grim Reaper.
So that's why I always get killed by phantoms.
Always getting killed. It's Grim Reaper.
Always.
Always.
Right. Let's move on to the next one. This one is honestly one of my favorites. Next one on our list is the Poltergeist. And Poltergeist, it comes from the German word, the two German words, Poltern and Geist. Poltern meaning noisy, and Geist literally meaning ghost. So Poltergeist literally translates to noisy ghost, which makes absolute sense because in common lore, poltergeists are the ones that, when you hear about like dishes being moved, or like chairs being moved, or like cups being thrown, or silverware being thrown or moved, or whatever, that's usually a poltergeist. They make noise. They do things that make noise and attract attention.
They're like 2-year-olds in the kitchen.
Pretty much.
With pots and pans.
Or a cat.
Or, yeah, oh, yeah, okay. You a poltergeist? She just looked at me and went, yeah! Oh.
I think your house is haunted by a poltercat.
Poltercat.
That's an F tier. That's an F tier horror movie title if I ever heard one.
Poltercat. Ooh, yes.
So,
now, this is one of the ghosts that I will say. I didn't mean to cut you off. That it's interesting that the lore, and then with Phasmo, they literally just copy paste, because it's what the lore is. That's what you get in Phasmophobia.
Yeah, and
almost 100% verbatim.
Yep. And the journal entry in Phasmophobia for Poltergeist is one of the most famous ghosts. The Poltergeist is known to manipulate objects around it to spread fear into its victims. Literally what common lore says it does.
Yep. And the strengths of the Poltergeist, capable of throwing multiple objects at once.
And
who would have thought?
And the weakness of the Poltergeist, with nothing to throw, Poltergeists become powerless.
Dun dun dun. So you take all the things, make a pile in the truck, and then your Poltergeist can't do anything. And you win. Right? That's how it wins? That's how you win? Yes?
Yeah. Yeah, go try that, see how it works.
Steal all the items.
Alright. So, as we said, poltergeist is a type of ghost or spirit that is responsible for physical disturbances such as loud noises and objects being moved or destroyed. Most claims or fictional descriptions of poltergeist show them as being capable of not only throwing objects, but also affecting people as well, such as pinching, biting, hitting, and tripping. They are depicted as capable of movement or levitation of objects, even as large as furniture and as small as cutlery, or noises such as disembodied knocking on doors. Foul smells can also be associated with poltergeist occurrences, as well as spontaneous fires and different electrical issues such as flickering lights. Now, some suggested explanations for supposed poltergeist activity includes memory lapses and delusions in the people reporting these disturbances, as well as unverified natural phenomena such as wind, mechanical vibrations, such as those from small earthquakes, or natural structural changes to the building. You know, like when a building kind of like settles a little bit. But in every account that I was able to find, with these types of explanations being offered, I mean, wind, you would be able to feel it. A small earthquake, you would definitely be able to feel it if it was enough to move stuff around in the house. And structural changes to buildings, like, unless a building is falling over or being demolished, it doesn't settle that much enough to move things around.
No. My house, it's still relatively new, and it still settles quite often, and I hear noises from the settling, but nothing moving. Nothing moves. No.
Personally, I think it's more likely that anyone who reports poltergeist activity, especially objects being moved like cups or plates or cutlery, just has a cat that they don't know about.
It's a poltercat.
It's a poltercat. Definitely a poltercat.
That's what it is. You see that little teacup, and then it to the edge of the table. That's your poltercat.
That's your poltercat at work.
And I like how it describes with the poltergeist, pinching, biting, hitting, and tripping. Could you just imagine 21st century poltergeist tripping people, and then as the person trips, and they're like, oh, got tripped from nothing. Did you see that? And the poltergeist is just leaning over there going, huh, man, why you tripping? 21st century ghosts. In a nutshell.
Oh, god damn it. Anyway, so poltergeist activity is
I'm sorry.
when ghost
That's
activity
fine.
is reported, when there are famous ghost cases. Poltergeist activity is usually like the center occurrence for that. The single most famous case that you've probably all heard about is the Amityville case,
Yep.
in which believe there was a family that lived there for 28 days,
28 days.
and
Yep.
then because of the occurrences in the house, they left. They left all of their belongings in the house, and they refused to go back in.
Yep.
And the most commonly reported things with the Amityville case was things being moved around, things being thrown, including, I believe, the people at points. I
If I'm
believe
not
they were
mistaken, yeah.
also affected and was like pushed, thrown, and tripped and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think there's anything more to say about Poltergeist? I think we covered pretty much everything.
No, the only thing is, I will say that it's funny that it's not listed as being like more common in the lore, because especially westernized nowadays, like typically when you see paranormal investigations, good, I want to say 85% of the time they'll classify them all as being poltergeists. Like it's, oh, we're being hunted. Hunted by what? Poltergeist. Like there is no other type of ghost out there. It's just, oh, it's a ghost, poltergeist. Like that's plain and simple. Like that's it. That's, they classify everything as far as huntings or hauntings rather in the real world is all poltergeist activity. Um and I kind of find that interesting yet also boring. Like there's so many types of ghosts and you always want to classify everything as being a poltergeist.
To be fair,
So,
everyone knows what a poltergeist is, everyone knows what a poltergeist does.
true. True.
So if something is being thrown, it's usually a poltergeist.
I guess you could basically say it's kind of a catch all to the common, like common folk, those that don't have the knowledge of other ghosts, or that they know of your typical ghost and like what a poltergeist is because of the 80s film The Poltergeist. Like I think it's just a catch all to make it easier for people to go, oh, we have poltergeist activity, so to say.
Yep. All right. The next one on our list is another very fun one. This is the Banshee.
The Banshee. Ooh, yes.
Banshees
And this one
are
has place here for me.
so the
Just a
journal in Phasmophobia describes the banshees as singing sirens and known for attracting victims through song. They've been known to single out their prey before making a killing blow. And the strength of the banshee in Phasmophobia is the banshee will weaken its target before striking. And the weakness is the banshee can sometimes be heard screaming with a parabolic microphone, which is really interesting because the Banshee in Phasmophobia, so the parabolic microphone is basically like a small radio dish looking thing or satellite dish looking thing, where, I mean, it is a microphone. You point it somewhere, and then pretty much any sound that occurs in that spot you can hear, even the faintest sounds. What's really cool is that the Banshee is the only ghost that has its own distinctive sound on the parabolic microphone. So if you hear that sound, it is 100% guaranteed a Banshee.
And it is, in fact, a Banshee scream.
Yep, it definitely is.
And I'm glad they fixed that. I'm glad they fixed it and made it a lot more terrifying instead of it just being, ah! Like,
Yeah.
I'm scared!
And there is Mechanical Whimsy in chat providing very close to the original, I believe, Irish spelling of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is still pronounced Banshee. Sidhe in Irish is pronounced she or shay. Very close to what we say for Banshee. But I do believe the first word is B-A-N, not B-A-N. At least that's what I was able to find when I was doing research. But it is still pronounced Banshee.
Yep. Still said the same, not spelled the same.
Yep. So a
And
Banshee. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're fine. I was about to say, and I know a lot of people, when they first think of a Banshee, it's what it's commonly known for. Um, as far as the lore goes, like everybody hears Banshee, they think of a dead female who's wailing. And that's typically what the lore kind of covers. Take it
Yeah.
away.
So a Banshee in Irish folklore is a female spirit who heralds the death of a family member, usually by wailing, shrieking, or keening. Keening in this case may include loud cries, wailing, rhythmic chanting, and spontaneous sad singing. In Ireland and parts of Scotland, a traditional part of the mourning ritual, Mourning, not Morning.
Morning.
Mourning,
Morning,
yes.
not morning.
A traditional part of the mourning ritual is the caning woman. And like I said, keening can be screaming, wailing, chanting, or even singing in this case. This woman may, in some cases, be a professional, and the best keeners would be in very high demand. Irish legend speaks of a keening being sung by a fairy woman, or banshee. She would sing it when a family member died or was about to die, even if the person had died far away and news of their death had not yet come. In those cases, her wailing would be the first warning the household would have of the death.
Yep. And it's, to me, the reason why I say that a banshee's got a very small place in my heart is from my years and years of playing World of Warcraft. Sylvanas is known as the Banshee Queen, and they have banshees in WoW that are literal wailing female ghosts. And at one point, when you go to do her first few quests for her original storyline, you get a necklace and you take it back to her, and the banshees surround her, and she leads them in a song. And I always thought that was just absolutely fantastic because it was a nice little take on the original term for what a banshee is. And it always like made me enjoy it more, because one of my favorite games at the time took a horror item ghost and just married the two, and I was like, yes, and I gravitated towards her, and then now I have a tattoo of Sylvanas, and yeah. Anyway,
So banshees do hold a very special place in your heart.
just a little one.
So,
And also on my left thigh. So
well, that's where the heart is, obviously.
duh.
So I would like to
Who
point
knew?
out that some people in chat may know that I play D&D a lot, or I used to. I've slowed down in recent years because just things happen, pandemic happened. I am not able to see a lot of my old groups anymore. But anyway, one of the monsters in D&D is the Banshee, which is it's depicted as like a purplish looking ghost. I think the purplish is just like a stylistic color, but it is depicted as a ghost of a woman, and its signature ability is the Banshee's Wail, which can, if a character hears it, they have to make a defensive save, basically like, can you hold off the effect of it? And if you can't, then you're immediately rendered unconscious. Because the wailing, the screaming of the Banshee is just that powerful. Like, it can affect you so much, which falls right in line with the real world counterparts, the Banshee. I think, like Poltergeist, the Banshee is one of the ones that it's like, you know what a Banshee is, you know what it does. I mean, it screams at you, it wails at you.
Right, right.
So
It's
that's what
a
every
screaming woman.
yep, so that's what every pop culture depiction of Banshee is.
Right.
which again falls in line right with the common folklore of Irish myth.
Mm-hmm. I think even there's an episode or whatever. I could be wrong. I haven't seen it in forever. In Supernatural, where they encounter a woman who's just on the side of the street and she's crying, and they're like, "It's a banshee." And I thought that was interesting too. And that's another thing is Supernatural does put in a lot of actual lore and fact into a lot of their episodes. Pardon my cat, she's bitching.
Speaking of banshees,
Right. Speaking of banshees, she's wailing because her food bowl is empty. So, and she still has 20 minutes before dinner, but it's time to start wailing. But yeah, I liked how in Supernatural that they did take a lot of typical ghosts that are common or well known, and even those that are unknown, and literally turned them into actual like monsters that the brothers have to go against and whatnot. One which is also the Jinn.
which leads us to our next ghost on the list, and my personal favorite out of all of these is the Jinn.
The Jinn.
And I want to say the reason why this is my favorite one is because of Wishmaster series of horror movies. I saw the first two when I was younger and immediately loved them. And I even have a picture somewhere around here. I'm not sure where it is now, but of the actor who played the Jinn signed a picture for me when I was at a convention.
Ignore Jennifer. Yeah, and I used your government name. We ain't talking about gens, we're talking about Jinns. I'm my favorite too. Get out of here.
All right. So, the journal in Phasmophobia describes Jinn as a territorial ghost that will attack when threatened. It has also been known to travel at a significant speed.
They fast boys.
Fast boys. The strength of a Jinn is that it will travel at a faster speed if its victim is far away. You know, the farther you are away from it, the more close or the more it wants to get to you, the faster it's going to move. And the weakness of a Jinn is turning off the location's power source will prevent the Jinn from using its ability. I'm not entirely sure where that came from, because this is one of the few ghosts that I think Phasmophobia has disconnected from its real-world counterparts. Because its real-world counterpart originated in an Islamic belief and affirmed to exist by the Quran itself, actually. They are spiritual beings that are relatively on par with humans in terms of power, albeit invisible. They live in societies like we. They require food, water, and air to live, and are able to procreate. They're not considered to be inherently good or evil, which is a bit of a disconnect from modern lore, where they're considered to be like tricksters, like evil tricksters.
Right. Loki.
Like Loki, yeah. But they may tend towards one or the other, as humans do. In common lore, in modern common mythology, Jinn are analogous to genies in that they are beings of great power that may or may not grant wishes to those held as their masters. And from what I can tell, well, I mean, not from what I can tell, this is obvious, but the most famous Jinn or genie in all popular culture is Robin Williams and Will Smith's genie from Aladdin, or Disney's Aladdin, which is based on the story Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp, which is actually a pretty good story. I read that when I was younger.
Yep. Good stuff. And I will say, the only way I could think of them having the connect, and this is a reach, okay? You gotta follow me here. I'm reaching. Is they get their power from power. And so if you turn on or wait a minute, what is it? I'm getting it backwards. Can't use its ability if the fuse box is off. No, yeah, okay. So it can use its ability if the fuse box is on.
So it gets its power from the power of the house.
From power, which most people, when you think electricity, it's blue. When you think of genies, they're blue. Blue. That's what I'm saying. It's a far, far reach, but it's the only connection I could possibly come up with. overall, there is no connection because I don't see where a genie would need to worry about electricity in order to have its power.
Right.
The only other possible explanation is that's their version of a lamp, and that's where it's more modernized to see Jinn or genie being contained to a vessel of some sort, whether it's a lamp or whatever.
I think that might be more likely than simply the color of Genie from Disney being a similar
Right.
color to electricity what people think of.
That's why I said that was the far, far
That
reach,
was
and
that
then
was
I
that
was
was a
like,
reach.
here's
Yeah.
my other.
So one thing
So
I
that's
found
something.
something, but yeah, I think that was a bit of a reach. But one
Yeah.
thing I found in my
Very
research
much.
is the idea that genies only grant 3 wishes and then move on to another master is nowhere in the old Jinn mythos. In in Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp, the jinns that help Aladdin, because there are 2 of them, the jinns that help Aladdin, there's no limit to how many wishes they grant. In fact, I believe I counted one time and they granted him like 9 or 10 wishes throughout the story. And that's only the ones that Aladdin verbally expressed. There was also a couple of, if I remember correctly, there was one where Aladdin made a wish that every day he would get like some kind of little treasure that he could sell. And the treasure he would sell at market, and he would get the money, and it would go to like I believe it was to help his mother who was sick or something like that. He was not just a street rat trying to live on his own, like in Disney's Aladdin. But every day he would wish for a little treasure, and this went on for a couple months until he realized that there's more that I can wish for. Like, I can wish for my mother to not be sick, or I can wish for more money. I don't have to just wish for a treasure to sell. But so, I think the idea that genies can only grant 3 wishes was just like a limiting factor, so that specifically for Disney, so that he wouldn't be like all powerful, and Aladdin wouldn't be able to just wish for every single thing.
Yeah,
Because that would
and the
just
whole
remove all
term of
kinds of
don't
conflict.
wish for more wishes.
Right.
Lily.
So I also want to talk about when we're talking about the Jinn. I also want to talk about how like everyone knows who Genie is from Disney's Aladdin. Not everyone knows that the Jinn, the race or the beings that Genie is based off of, are not necessarily good. They are widely considered to be not really evil, but like tricksters. So you have to be very careful with what you wish for with a genie, because they will try, or a Jinn, sorry, because they will try to twist your wish and make it harm you instead of help you. Like typical like monkey's paw thing. Like, for example, if you wish for $1 million, then maybe the Jinn will conjure the $1 million, having stolen it from like a cancer research fund or something like that. Like, you get the money, but it's hurting other people. Stuff like that. Speaking of wishes, is your cat okay?
He's trying to go behind my computer. And there's been times where she will hit the switch on the
Power strip.
power
Gotcha.
strip.
Yeah, don't want that
So
to
I'm
happen.
like trying to get her out and lure her out, and it wasn't working.
Mechanical M saying it's like the wish spell in D&D. If you have a jackass DM, yes. Because
Oof.
yeah, because the wish spell, it does say that like the more you use it, the more chance there is of something going wrong, but it's up to DM discretion. But yeah, like I said, Jinn are probably one of my favorite spiritual beings in all of mythology, just because I've always been fascinated. And the next one on our list is kind of a little bit personal, and you know why. Next one on our
Yes.
list is the mayor. Would you like
The
to? Yeah,
mayor.
would you like to describe it?
Yeah, so the mayor has been said in the Phasmo origins to be the source of all nightmares, making it the most powerful in the dark. And then its strengths and weaknesses. Strengths would be it has an increased chance to attack in the dark, which makes sense. And then the weaknesses, turning the lights on will reduce the chance of an attack. Obviously.
Which kind of
And
makes
then,
sense for a thing that
right.
lives and thrives in darkness.
Right. So I will say this is another one that they did really, really well with the lore for Phasmo versus the real life lore. That they're married together. The only difference is the old, like the origins. This one was kind of confusing because between what I found and what you found, and we kind of mixed them, kind of put them together, and it has several different types of origins, so to speak. The first one was that it's based off of Scandinavian and Germanic mythology creature called the Mara. The mare in mythology was not technically a spirit, but rather a normal woman that transformed at night due to a curse applied by circumstances of her birth. The curse applied to a man would instead create a werewolf. So, if a man was cursed due to his circumstances at birth, it generated a werewolf. And if it was applied to a woman, it created a Mara or mare. Um, the Mara would enter people's homes at night and then place themselves on their victim's chest, making them paralyzed and giving them a feeling of suffocation. And the best description that came for that was they are what is considered to be dream demons. That they come at night, they're the dream demons that when people say that they feel like they're being possessed or whatever, or they have sleep paralysis, that it's the mare that's literally holding them down and suffocating them, making them unable to breathe, unable to move. And that's where the origin came of the mare itself, is they are nightmare demons. They are dream demons.
Yep. And what you said about sleep paralysis is spot on. Because I know in a lot of cases of sleep paralysis, fortunately, I've not had to experience that often. It's only been like 2 or 3 times in my life. But it was pretty much that. I couldn't move. I felt like something heavy sitting on me, preventing me from breathing. It was hard to breathe. And I saw something sitting on me,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very, very common, um, I don't want to say symptom of sleep paralysis,
Right.
but that's the best thing I can think of. It's a very common symptom of people who describe going through sleep paralysis. Is they can't move because their body is paralyzed. It's
Yep.
hard to breathe, and they see what looks like a demon either sitting on them or sitting at the foot of their bed or sitting on the ceiling.
Yep.
And the reason why I say that I've had personal experience with Mare is not because I've had sleep paralysis, but because, and I've told you this story a couple times, and I've mentioned this on stream a couple
Yeah.
times as well, is because I have a dream demon haunting me. Years and years ago, I was able to lucid dream, where basically I could recognize that I was in a dream and exert control over the dream itself. I did that for a long time until one day my dream changed against my will, and I was basically being chased through a dark forest by something. When so I had taught myself how to create an exit from the dream in case something like this happened. So when I got to that exit, when I woke up, right as I woke up, I felt something like take its claws and just dig into my back and scratch me like really hard and deep. And when I woke up, I was covered in blood, and I had wounds on my back that matched where I felt like where the claws would have gone in. And based on the position and the severity of those wounds, they could not have been done by me just like reaching around and scratching myself. Like, I have tried to do
Right.
that before. It was just impossible. So, and ever since that night, multiple times a week, and this is why one of the reasons why I don't sleep as much as I should, multiple times a week, I have very vivid, very terrifying nightmares of that thing chasing me again. So I fully believe that I have a mare attached to me that is feeding off of me, that doesn't want me to sleep, or does want me to sleep so it can, eventually kill me.
Right. I think what started you telling me that, like, you were very hesitant at first. Um and it was probably we had just really gotten into the whole discussing our love for horror, and we were doing the repetitive different types of horror movie watching, binging rather. um if you remember right, we did watch one that was very, I want to say, based loosely Japanese. Mm, I'm not. It's hard to remember, but I know we had watched a movie at one point where it was a family that was basically being hunted by the same mare through the generations,
Yep.
and
I very vividly remember that movie because it
yeah,
touched on a very personal subject for me.
and yeah, because I remember we both watched it, and I remember because it like jumps on the ceiling or whatever, and it had like a really long tongue, and instead of it just sitting on you, it used its tongue to basically go, what was it, like up the nose or something, or around the neck, or I don't
Something like
remember.
that.
um and it used that to penetrate the dreams and basically was like sucking their soul away slowly while they dreamt, and it was like intense to watch. And they ended up killing the one. Come to find out, it was like it was part of their family history, as in like it was the great grandmother or the grandmother, or like it was passed down through generations, which was the big difference. But anyway, I can't remember the name of the movie. I can't remember what it was, but we had watched it. Maybe it was even a Netflix short. Who knows?
It was,
But
I believe, it was
or
a full
a
movie on.
YouTube short.
I think it was a full movie on Amazon that we watched, and I
It
think
might
it
have
may have just been called
it
Mare.
might have been even been Mare.
I
Yeah,
think it was
I
just
think that
Mare.
might have been the one that was Mare, because we were like really interested in, like, we were like, oh well, Mare movie, that might be it. Um, Long story short, it was after we had seen that movie. That's when you kind of opened up to me, and I was like, oh shit, okay, all right, cool. So that's a thing. I know I've had sleep paralysis and had something to that effect, but not anywhere like that. Like, we like went into a whole, it segued us to your
Oh yeah,
experience and what you go through. Oh yeah, it was a nice deep conversation.
that was an hours long conversation too.
It really was. Like, the movie was like an hour and 15 or so. It was a very short film.
And honestly, it
And
wasn't even that good of a film
yeah,
either.
it really wasn't. It did a good job explaining,
It did. To its
what
credit,
a mare was.
it did a very good job explaining and showing what a mare is and what it does. But that was kind of the only thing it had going for it.
Yeah, the acting was pretty The effects were really kind of But yeah, it definitely led us into like an all-night conversation about mare and dream demons and all that kind of stuff, which I thought was pretty awesome. Um
Yep. And
where was I going with that? I done forgot.
I'll
That's in
finish
my bed.
off. I'll finish off with the mare section by saying, like, with Phasmophobia, there's not really a way to show it basically killing you
Yeah,
through
your
your
character doesn't
dreams
sleep.
because your character doesn't sleep. So I think they
Right.
did a good job picking the next best thing, which because
That's where we were going. Yep.
yeah, because typically people sleep at night. I am definitely an exception. I know you're usually an exception, but
Yes.
typically people sleep at night, and that's when the mare is the strongest when someone dreams and when they're sleeping. So I think Phasmophobia did a really good job in translating that into the game, with the mayor attacking more often in the dark and being weakened when the lights are on.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I've heard to be able to like fully get yourself out of sleep paralysis is not only like force yourself to move. Like, if in my experience with sleep paralysis, like I had to focus all of my concentration on just like wiggling my fingers. And then as soon as one of my fingers twitched, all of a sudden the paralysis was broken and I could move. And I immediately reached over and turned my light on. And then like the lingering effects of the sleep paralysis just immediately evaporated.
Which is funny because even in sleep paralysis, you can still move your eyes around and look, but nothing else. Like, you can't breathe, you can't move, you can't. It almost feels like something is literally sitting on you and pushing you further into the mattress.
It really does. And if anyone in chat has not gone through sleep paralysis, count yourself lucky. It is absolutely terrifying. Not only not being able to move, but also potentially seeing like this monster sitting on you or sitting at the foot of your bed staring at you, like inching closer and closer, and knowing that there's nothing you can do about it because you're paralyzed. All you can do is sit there and wait for it to get you.
Yeah, it's like you go through an anxiety attack, which makes you feel like you can't breathe, but then again, you also can't breathe to begin with, so it's like double the anxiety because you're already unable to breathe. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested to hear if anybody else in chat, or as some of you know, we do post this later on YouTube. If I'll even throw this out to YouTube peoples, if you want to leave a comment in the section below, let us know. I'd love to learn about it. Have you experienced sleep paralysis? What's your story? What have you seen? What helps break you out of sleep paralysis? Yeah. I would love to know.
Absolutely. I would absolutely love that too. If anyone here on Twitch chat, if you want to post it in my Discord, or if anyone in the YouTube comments, just go ahead and post your experience. Like what it was like, how'd you break out of it, like Jan said.
Give us the lowdown and the down low, as the cool kids say. I don't know any cool kids that say that.
I don't think they say that nowadays. Anyway, moving on. The next one on our list is the Revenant.
The Revenant, yes. Which, funny enough, it's not a common name that people would hear or say out and about when you talk about ghosts. Not a lot of people know what a Revenant is or does. But according to Phasmophobia, the Revenant itself is the violent ghost that will attack indiscriminately. Slow while dormant. However, as soon as they haunt, they can move incredibly fast. Which I thought was really interesting, that it's slow while dormant, so it's like it's not like it's sleeping. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they have it listed that it's basically slow before the hunting happens, and then, which means, I guess the best way to describe it is it doesn't do a lot of activity. It's very
more of a calm ghost.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. He's very calm, or she. They're a very calm ghost as far as activity goes, but when they start hunting or haunting, they're very quick about it. Like, they let you know they're coming about, they're here, they're doing their thing. And that being said, their strengths and weaknesses. The strength is they can travel significantly faster if a player is spotted during a hunt. I don't know if I just spit. If I did, I apologize. I don't know how to keep my spit in my mouth. So they travel faster if a player is spotted during a hunt, and their weakness, it moves very slowly when it's not chasing a player. So if you're able to get into a hidey hole spot, it's gonna go slow. If it sees you, it keep coming.
Yep.
Girl, you better run.
And the strategy, like it lists on the Phasmophobia wiki for the strategy, it says due to the Revenant's power, it is absolutely critical to hide as soon as possible during the hunt because you will not be able to outrun a Revenant before it catches you because it is so fast.
Yep.
Which I feel it sort of ties in to the real world counterpart of the Revenant, which is typically a deceased person returning from the dead to haunt the living, either as a disembodied ghost or alternatively an animated corpse, which is usually what we know as zombies.
Yes.
In anthropology, it is described as ancestor worship, typically involving rites intended to prevent revenants, which are imagined as starving and envious of the living, from rising. Strategies for preventing revenants may include either sacrifice, giving the dead food and drink to pacify them, or magical banishment of the deceased and force them to not return.
Yes. And I will say that Phasmo and the lore definitely are not married together in this case, except for the fact that it is a dead
Vengeful.
person coming back and they're vengeful. Yeah, that they're envious of the living. And I think that's where the connection is, that if they see you, they're fast. If you're hiding, they're slow, because it says in the lore that they're envious of the living, which would make sense because, like, if you're envious of someone, you're gonna come at them with great speed. Like, you're gonna go after that person, and that's the only way I could think that it could potentially be married together.
Right. And I agree. Because to me, like you said, Phasmophobia, the way it works, I guess not so much that it's envious, but more that it's wrathful. Like,
Yeah.
Revenant, when it rises, it hates you. It wants nothing more than to kill you, make you cease to exist. And that's what it does in Phasmophobia.
Yep.
As soon as it sees you, it just beelines for you and tries to kill you as quickly as possible.
Right, and it's almost like you think Revenant Revenge, like the two REV, Revenant Revenge. Like, that's the best way I can think of it. Is even though you typically, as a Phasma ghost hunter, you didn't do anything to the ghost except for maybe sage it and stuff, but it's going to take its revenge on you coming into its house, and it's going to come after you, beeline towards you, and kill you.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And that's honestly, I will say, our less exciting ghost to really kind of talk about. It's very plain, very simple. It does as it states, and the lore is pretty much just about as boring and straightforward as Phasmo's description.
Yeah, they don't really have any real special abilities other than their speed.
Yep. And in the lore, there's nothing really super exciting to talk about, like, oh, this is where this started in this story or whatever. It's literally just a very, very mad ghost that is
Yep,
mad that you're living and it's not. I think it's cool though
pretty
that
much.
you can offer sacrifice and you can also offer food and drink. Have a little tea party and it'll be less angry in the lore. And hello, Cedar.
Faye, welcome in. How are you doing tonight? Alright, I believe the next ghost on our list is the Shade.
Or the shy boy.
Very, very shy boy.
Very, very shy boy. The Shade is known to be very shy. Boo. With evidence to suggest that it will stop all paranormal activity if there are multiple people nearby. And with the Shade, its strengths are being shy makes it more difficult to locate and obtain evidence. Its weakness is it's less likely to hunt if multiple people are nearby. So its strengths and weaknesses are literally in its description. It's shy, and if a lot of people are around, it's not gonna do a whole lot.
It's not evil, it's just introvert.
Right. He's not shy, he's just introverted. And when a lot of group of people come in, he's like, yo, I'm out. Too many people. Deuces. I gotta go back to my hidey hole over here.
Speaking of people, I think there's a
Speaking of
mini spawn
people,
behind you.
yeah, we got a mini Shade. Hi, baby. You want to say hi to everybody?
No, thanks.
Oh, okay. You don't want to wave? Okay.
Okay, bye.
And there goes there's my spawn. It's my spawn.
Right. So the shade in classical mythology translates from the Greek okai or the Latin umbra in reference to the notion of spirits in the Greek or Latin underworld. The most notable reference to the shade is the first book of Samuel, which, in disguise, King Saul has, again, the Witch of Endor, which we referenced when we were talking about the spirit at the beginning.
Yes.
And the Witch of Endor conducts a seance to summon the dead prophet Samuel, which is really interesting because our previous research noted that the dead prophet Samuel was also known as a spirit in a different story.
Yep.
One of the more recognizable ghosts in English lit is the shade of Hamlet's murdered father in Shakespeare's The Tragical History of Hamlet of Denmark, also known simply as Hamlet.
Yep. To be or not to be, for those that know that reference.
Who doesn't know that
That's
reference?
Hamlet, right?
I actually don't know.
I want to say that's Hamlet, but I could be wrong.
It's either Hamlet or Macbeth.
I know.
It's one of those.
Right. It's definitely not Othello, so.
Right. So, anyway, back to the actual shade. So, I don't really know where Phasmophobia lore and real world lore mixes together. Because a shade is. Yeah, a shade is just like. The Greek words okai and the Latin words umbra, which roughly is where shade comes from. Well, I don't know about the Greek word.
Board game.
I don't know about the Greek word okai because I don't know much about the Greek language, but I know the Latin word umbra typically is used for darkness.
Right.
Or shade. Shade from the sun.
Right. What? No. Which makes sense because it's literally the spirits of the underworld.
Right.
That's. I think it's funny that shade and spirit are basically one and the same in lore reference, so to speak. And it was interesting that Phasmo took it and was like, "No, he's just shy boy. He just a shy spirit.
No, he just wants to hide
like
in the shade.
Spirit, but introverted.
So
he's the introverted spirit."
So talking about shades and spirits together actually reminded me there is an episode of Doctor Who, which is one of my favorite TV shows, where the Doctor and his companion Martha Jones go back in time and meet Shakespeare, which is brought up in the definition for shade that we found.
Right.
So there are creatures called Carrionites, which are basically like stereotypical witches, except they're aliens. Don't ask. But there's one that comes through and wants to use Shakespeare to create and recite the spell that will allow a portal to open to where they're trapped and bring the rest of the Carrionites through. And they do that by modifying the end of one of his plays. It is a play. It's called Shakespeare's Lost Play, Love's Labour's Won. It is a sequel to Love's Labour's Lost, and Love's Labour's Won is mentioned in Shakespeare's works, but there is no record of it ever having been published or performed anywhere. And this episode kind of offers an explanation for that, because the Carrionites change the end of the play to recite their spell. And when it is practiced by two of the actors, the spell doesn't actually fully activate, but it does just enough to bring one of the Carrionites through, and it takes the form of like a wraith, or like how we described a wraith earlier, almost like a ghostly womanish, except in this case it was like a female-looking alien. But when the two people see it, one of them says, "Oh my god, it's a spirit, a vile shade. What do we do?" And I just thought, because we were talking about shades and spirits and Shakespeare, that was just like a massive coincidence that that character, who is related to Shakespeare in the show, says this thing is a spirit and a vile shade.
Right.
I don't know where I was going with that, other than bringing up the fact that it was just a really neat coincidence, and also
Hey,
mentioning Doctor Who.
coincidence is fine. Right. And you definitely got Fandros and Cedar going back and forth over there in chat talking about Doctor Who as well.
Yeah, like Fandros is saying, the power of words. That was what that entire episode was about. And there were parts of that episode that were pretty dumb. But in my opinion, it was one of the better episodes.
Yes. Nerds. Correct.
Absolutely nerds. I don't know what else there is to say about Shade. Like, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah. It's pretty typical. I feel like the Revenant, Shade, and then our next one are pretty meh, like as far as lore goes, and even with Phasmo lore, like they're pretty meh and what you expect when it comes to their name. Like, you really kind of expect them to be what their name says, like for their namesake. They're boring to talk about, but they do what you expect them to. Like Revenant does fast stuff when it sees you because it wants to kill you, and then you got your Shade, Shy Boy, Shade. And then the next one is the Demon. When anybody hears the word demon, your brain immediately goes to the fact that it's scary and it want to hurt you.
Yep.
And I like how so we'll go straight for Phasmo. Phasmo's description of the demon is one of the worst ghosts you can encounter and has been known to attack without reason. And its strengths and weaknesses, even. It's just one of those, what do you expect? Strengths can initiate hunts more often. Its weaknesses: crucifix effectiveness is increased to 5 meters against 1. Like it doesn't like a crucifix. And this one, I will say, was one of their easiest ghost types to tie to actual lore, modern lore. Because literally, when you hear demon, you think bad. You think bad, evil, spirit thing, demonic, it's coming at me, satanic. And what does satanic hate? The cross. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Which, of course, literally, there wasn't much to even come up with as far as the lore in now it like modern lore when it came to the demon. Like everything that I looked up and everything you looked up, everything was the same. That it literally is demonic ghosts exist only to torment and tempt the living. In Judaism and Christianity, demons are listed as unclean spirits.
Yep. And I do want to say, I think probably the most famous demon.
Mechanicals.
Yeah, cross equals satanic panic.
Satanic panic.
Yeah, I like to think one of the most famous pop culture references to demons is The Exorcist, Pazuzu.
Yeah.
The demon that possesses Reagan. And it shows all of the classic tropes that a demon would, which, now that I think about it, probably originated from this movie, so it makes sense that it's very, very trope heavy. All they want to do is possess someone and torment the living. They want to hurt the people around them. They are basically, they have no strength in the face of the power of God. You splash holy water on them, they're basically allergic, like they burn.
They're allergic, they sneeze a whole bunch. They're like, oh god, my allergies.
Let's hope they have a mask on, because who knows what, regular COVID's bad enough.
COVID.
Regular COVID's bad enough.
Demonic COVID?
I don't want demonic
COVID.
But, and then if you touch them with a crucifix, their skin will burn. Because it, like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's toxic to them. Like,
Right.
I don't know how to describe it. I don't know what words are to describe it. But yeah, like, you know what a demon
Demons
is.
just need Benadryl. I can't. Was it you?
Not Benadryl, Demenadryl.
Demenadryl.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Yep.
I'm just gonna finish off my glass.
Just gonna take a big sip here. Like silver. Silver? Silver for werewolves.
Like silver for werewolves, yeah. It's
hearing the echo of myself saying that. Oh, ridiculous. Anyways, but yeah, I guess it also makes me think of like when they splash them with holy water and it burns the skin, and they're just.
Yeah, like I said, they're basically allergic to holy water. I mean, because it is holy, they're allergic to basically anything holy because they have no power in the face of the power of God. And like when you think of,
you keep saying allergic.
There's no other word to describe it.
You could say they're weak or powerless. I don't know, but I like you saying allergic, okay? It's good.
Okay, look, if you were allergic to peanuts and I mashed some peanuts up and put it in some water and made holy peanut water and then splashed it on you, you would get a rash from it. Right?
But it would. I guess.
Demons are allergic. Demons are allergic to the power of God, basically.
Right. Or die.
I mean, that's okay, Fandros. Look, that is what happens if you douse a demon in holy water. If you slap a crucifix right up against its skull or something like that,
just go swimming,
and then just leave it there.
In a pool of holy water.
It is in so much pain because it is dying. You are killing it by using the power of God. Okay.
Cedar saying it's interesting though that demons show up in pretty much every mythology. Says something about us humans, eh?
I mean,
yeah,
demon in general does not necessarily specifically have to mean Christian demons. They are generally just held as evil beings that want to harm us, like no matter where they come from. I mean, even in, what does it say, Judaism and Christianity, they're listed as unclean spirits. Unclean meaning, like, not cleansed to the point where they can get into heaven. Which I guess eventually has come to mean, demonic, effectively.
Yeah, and the other thing is it said that they're not just meant to, like, hurt, but it's to torment and tempt the living. Which my brain, when I first read that, was for demon. I was like, so you mean a succubus or an incubus? Incubus. I like those music songs that that band there put out. It was good stuff.
Oh, by the way, just an aside, I was right. I had exactly enough wine left for 2 glasses.
Oh, yes. And vampires just need SPF 1,000 sunscreen. They might need 1,001. Fandra's imitating Blues Brothers. We're on a mission for God. And Cedar going on. Depends on the demon, though. Christian, Jude. I'm done talking.
Christian, Jewish, apparently. Muslim ones are vulnerable to God's power. But a Hindu demon would laugh at a cross. Right. So, I kind of see that.
Demon. Yeah.
So I kind of see that as whichever religion the demon comes from is vulnerable to the power of that religion's deities. Which, I mean, if you think about it, if you really go back, all of the monotheistic religions, I mean, even the polytheistic ones like Hindu, they have multiple gods, but there's always a chief god. There's always one in charge with more power than the others, which is effectively, God.
I like how my husband turned on the power of the sun for a minute.
spelled Muslim. Yeah, no worries. I got what you meant. And actually, Muslim is sometimes spelled Moslim or Moslem. I have seen it spelled that way. So you're technically not incorrect.
You're wrong, but you're not wrong.
You're wrong, but you're not wrong.
Right.
I don't really know what else there is to say about demons.
There's really not. I mean, it's a very common thing that people know of demons, know what they do, how they do it. Like, it's just, you got your atypical phrase, like, or knowing of demon. People hear demon, they think, get a cross, get a crucifix, praise Jeebus. So, I mean, you got your typical stuff. And even with Phasmo, they took it and took the atypical and smashed it in with the demon.
And I agree, Faye. Stolas is best demon. If that's the one I'm thinking of from, what's it called? Not Has-Been Hotel, the offshoot of Has-Been Hotel. Hell of a Boss, that's what it is. Stolas is one of the princes of hell, is an actual demon. But that is a discussion for another stream, or another time.
Yeah, we need
the
to
next
talk about
ghost.
the demons.
Yeah, the next ghost on our list.
Well, here's where we get kind of. From here, we go from our atypical ghost names, origins, everything people know of, to going across the ways, to where we go on to all of the Japanese folklore. That's where on the Phasmophobia list. Then it goes into a good chunk of your Japanese folklore with all of those type of ghosts. And then they mix in a few that are not Japanese based. And then they've got 2 in there that are specifically for Phasmo alone. I don't know if you want to just go ahead and knock those 2 randoms out of there and get them discussed and push them out.
We can go do that. We can do that because there really isn't too much to say about those. The ones that are specifically for Phasmo, they're very unique ones. They are the Mimic and the Twins, which doesn't really... I mean, the Twins is literally just like 2 different ghosts working together.
Yeah.
Kind of in Phasmo.
Go ahead and... Yeah. They don't really have a lore, as we discussed. These 2, the Mimic and the Twins, they don't really have their own separate lore. They are made up via Phasmo. Because with the Twins, their Phasmo lore is these ghosts have been reported to mimic each other's actions. They alternate their attacks to confuse their prey, which they do. I ain't gonna lie to you. They do. The strength for the Twins is either twin may start a hunt, though not at the same time. And then their weaknesses, we often interact with one environment at the same... Will often interact with the environment at the same time. Because they'll, do something in 2 different rooms at the same time, and that's how you're kind of it's twins. But there is no, lore for twins. Because it's something that literally Phasmo made up for their game. And I will say they can either be really easy to tell when you go into a game, and then also times it's not as easy to tell because they have made it to where some of the spirits will actually, or some of the ghosts rather, they do migrate to, different rooms. They'll go from the room to the hallway. The ghost room won't always be in one specific spot,
especially in higher difficulties.
Because of that, and because of that, that's when it can make it difficult to just immediately pop out. No, these are the twins. But of course, when you start on beginner mode, it's the ghost doesn't really move, so it makes it easier to spot the twins.
Yep.
But going later in, it gets a little bit harder.
Yeah, there's not really much else to say about the Twins because, like you said, they're something that were made up pretty much just for Phasmophobia. It's just literally 2 ghosts working together.
Yep, their name is literally what they are. 2 ghosts work together. They're twins. They don't exactly have 2 different things happen. One won't have in this room you'll get ghost writing and ghost orbs and blah blah blah, and in this room you'll get, it's not like that. They're literally like identical twins. They both will have freezing temperatures and do this, but only one of them is where you'll get a majority of the evidence, and then the other one can still hunt and do the freezing temps, but nothing really else. If I'm not mistaken. You don't really come across the twins too very often, especially since they've done the update and they put in the 3 new ghosts.
Yep. More ghosts they add, the less likely you're going to get the other ones.
Yep. So moving on, then you have the Mimic, which is literally just that, the Mimic. And it's elusive, mysterious copycat ghost that mirrors traits and behaviors from others, including other ghost types. And the Mimic's strengths is it can mimic the abilities and traits of other ghosts. Its weakness, though, that it will present ghost orbs as secondary evidence. So it can have 3 other things and ghost orbs. Boom, it's got 4 things, bam, right there. It's a Mimic. I will say though, when you get to the higher levels, like nightmare mode, you're only gonna get 2. So you're kind of guessing at that point. But yeah, the Mimic is literally what it is. It's a mimicking ghost.
Now, I will say there are some real world things that can act like that. There are doppelgangers, there are shapeshifters, there are skinwalkers aren't really mimics because they literally wear someone else's skin in some accounts. But anyway, my point is there are some things in the real world that do have that kind of trait, but the mimic is not any specific one of those.
Right.
It is what it is, and it was kind of just made for Phasmophobia.
Yep. Yeah. Atypical, made for Phasmo. Which honestly, I can't say it's not bad. It was a good ghost when they came out with it, but I will say that I appreciate the other 3 new ghosts that they put out versus when they put out the Mimic. It gave it a nice little struggle twist, because it was fun to try to find extra things and, clues. But like I said, the higher up in difficulty you get, the less clues you're gonna really get anyway, so it kind of defeated the purpose.
Right.
In my opinion. I will say, though, for beginners, yeah, you're going to have a lot of fun, especially when you get confused and you got 4 clues going on and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep. Now, the rest of the ghosts we have on the list, the majority of them, like we said before, the majority of them are different Japanese ghosts. There are a couple that aren't, and I would like to do those first.
Yep.
Because I believe there is... The ones that are not Japanese.
5. There's 5. The 3 new ones and 2 old ones are not included with the Japanese lore.
And the ones literature. And the ones that are not are the Hontu, the Myling, the Moroi, Deogen, and the Thay. The rest of them are all various Japanese ghosts, and a lot of them are kind of similar. They come from a similar place in real world. Because Japanese have a lot of different names for a lot of different types of ghosts. A lot of them are very, very specific as well. Like, I believe it's not one of the Phasmophobia ghosts. I don't remember the name of it. But I believe there is one Japanese spirit that, like, it literally haunts a room where a person has died in a very, very specific way. Like a 1 in a million chance of that happening. I don't remember what the ghost is called. I don't remember what specific way that is. But I'm just saying a lot of Japanese ghosts come from the same place in the real world culture. Which is why we're kind of like lumping them together.
Because there is a lot.
There is a lot. But before we do that, we are going to get into the other ones, and we are going to start with the Hontu.
Yep. Now, so we've got the Hontu. which if you're looking at the list through Phasmophobia, it's number 14. So the Hontu itself, with I lost my place. There we go. With the Phasmophobia journal entry, it's a rare ghost that thrives in the coldest climates. The cold seems to make them more aggressive and empowered. And then you have its strengths and weaknesses. The strength is lower temperature allows the Hantu to move faster, and weakness is the opposite, obviously. Warmer areas slows the Hantu's movement.
And Phasmophobia does actually have a temperature mechanic, because
Yes.
one of the evidences you can get is a freezing temperature. So if you get a thermometer, you can go around different rooms. You can check which rooms are like which temperature, and if you find one that's like 10 degrees colder, about like 10 or more degrees colder than the rest of the house, that's usually where the ghost is. And the way this translates for the Hantu is it's determined. Like, there's a chart on the Phasmophobia wiki that has the ghost's speed in meters per second compared to the temperature of the room that you're in. And if the room is 15 degrees Celsius or above, which is like the highest level or the slowest the Hantu could be, the speed is 1.4 meters per second. So
It's slow.
it's about 4.5 feet per second, which doesn't sound that slow, but compared to the rest of the list, it's very slow, because I believe people run at about 2 meters per second in the game. I might be mistaken. But
I can't remember.
So the next temperature down, between 12 Celsius and 15 Celsius, the ghost speed increases from 1.4 to 1.75, which is a pretty significant increase. And then going down further, from 9 Celsius to 12 Celsius, it's 2.1 meters per second. And then the further down you go, the faster it gets, where if you're below 3 Celsius, which is very, very close to freezing temperatures, the ghost is moving at a very fast 2.7 meters per second. That's
just about running at you.
That's about 9 feet, like 8 or 9 feet per second. That's a lot.
Quick. Yep.
So with the Hantu, it comes from Indonesian and Malay. It translates from the Indonesian and Malay languages literally to spirit or ghost, and generally refers to the spirits of the dead, but they can also be other invisible supernatural beings such as demons. In mythology, Hantus are very widely and don't necessarily have to be evil. Very similar to the Jinn, like we talked about earlier. And
how they don't necessarily got to be good or bad.
Yep. In the oldest myths, they don't have to be good or bad. I don't really see how real world lore translates into Phasmophobia mechanics in this case, because the research that we did shows nothing about temperature.
No, and I was about to say, I can't even do a far reach like I did with the genie there for a hot second. Like, I can't, there's nothing I can do with this Hontu to go anywhere near even a yoga stretch to it. I mean, they couldn't be more unrelated.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what else there is to say about a Hantu, because we cannot find a link between Phasmophobia lore and real world lore for Hantus. In fact, before Phasmophobia, I've never even heard of a Hantu. And I like to consider myself not having like encyclopedic knowledge or anything like that, but fairly wide read when it comes to occult topics like spirits and ghosts and magic and stuff like that. I've never heard of a Hantu. But then again, I've never studied Indonesian mythology either.
Same. I mean, to be honest with you, like, with my family being Greek, you know, I learned a lot of the Greek mythology, but just enjoying horror and loving the paranormal and things of that nature, like, I've learned quite a bit of that aspect and learning like different types of ghosts and what they do and whatnot, that I will have to say I'm pretty much in the same boat that I'd never heard of a Hontu. But then again, I didn't really know. Like every time I would hear of anything that came from the paranormal, it was typically like German, Scottish, Romanian, and then Western civilization. English, American English. Greek mythology. Like it was, yes, a lot of the major mythologies, so to speak. They all had different types of ghosts, like with the Japanese and all that. But never once did I ever go, maybe Indonesia would have their own type of lore or folklore or whatever. Like I never once was like, maybe I should look into Indonesian or like Malay languages to go into any of that. Like I never once thought that they would have their own, which is pretty self-centered to say the least.
It kind of is. I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
As a people, Westerners are very ethnocentric. Like we concern ourselves with ourselves and don't really think about other cultures as much. Which
right.
I think is a shame.
It really is. Especially like when we were doing our research, I will say because of the Hontu that it definitely made me go, "Oh god." I knew of the major ones because as you know, like we have a whole section of just absolute Japanese folklore ghosts because they're common, but like it made me go, well, what does other cultures call ghosts, and do they have anything special or significant in their lore or whatever that comes to what that ghost does? Like it just raised my curiosity more, to be honest.
Yeah, like there are a lot of ghosts on this list that I want to learn more about their real world counterparts, where they go or where they come from. And yeah, that's exactly what we did for this list.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's not much on Hantus. There's a lot on Western stuff because it's popular in pop culture. Pop culture is literally a popular culture. And then the more esoteric stuff like Hontu, Goryo, Onryo, Smiling, Fae, Diogen, stuff like that, I've never heard of before playing Phasmophobia. But now I'm interested in learning where a lot of them come from.
And Cedar, if you do have a book on Indonesian folklore, share with us your
please
knowledge.
Share. Please share.
We like learning. We're a learning place, especially when it comes to anything spooky.
Folklore source
also,
material.
Welcome back, Snowy.
You're our girl. Well, I will definitely keep that in mind, and I will probably end up taking you up on that at some
point. She's straight. Let me check. Okay, you go check your library.
All right. In the meantime,
also, Peter, I don't know if you know. I will say this because I saw this somewhere that apparently you're listed as a library if you have up to 1,000 books. If you have 1,000 books or more, you're considered a library. And I already know that Cedar and Brian's house is legit a library. So there you go. Anyway.
All right. Moving on to the next ghost on our list that is not one of the Japanese ones, because we will get to those as a group later on.
Yes.
The Myling is next.
Myling.
And according to the journal in Phasmophobia, a Myling is a very vocal and active ghost. They are rumored to be quiet when hunting prey, which I feel is kind of interesting because it says very vocal and active and then immediately says, no, it's quiet.
Right. I will say, when we have ever played Phasmo and we've gotten certain evidences and we're like, oh, but it's noisy, but it's quiet, but it's noisy, and then we're like, maybe it's a Myling. It's got, I'm picking Myling because it's got to be a Myling, and it's not. And then other times we're like, ooh, we know what this is. And then we get to the other list and it's like, nope, you were wrong, it was a Myling. And we're like, what the but it was so loud. Like, it was so loud. Like, what the I'm so confused. This is the most confusing ghost of Phasmo ghosts, I feel.
So the strength for a Myling is known to be quieter when hunting, and then the weakness is it makes more frequent paranormal sounds. The way this translates in the game, according to the wiki, is when not hunting, a Myling will make more paranormal sounds than other ghosts, which can be heard through a parabolic microphone, which we typically don't use.
Because who wants to walk around with a bubble dish?
Right. And then when hunting, a Myling's footsteps will only be audible to players within about 9 meters, as similar to the distance required for electronic interference, which is different than other ghosts because you're able to hear other ghosts like throughout the place.
Mm-hmm.
The volume of the footsteps is slightly muffled at 9 meters, but quickly becomes discernible as it approaches. Vocalizations during the hunt will remain audible at the same distance as other ghosts. So the Myling is in Phasmophobia is a very hard ghost to figure out through means that aren't strictly the 3 evidences that you get.
Yep.
Because it's a lot of the things like the paranormal sounds are generally random chance. So there is a chance that you just don't hear a Myling as often as you should, which will confuse you if you're going for like a no evidence run or something.
Yep.
And based on our research, what we found about the Myling is in Scandinavian folklore, Mylings are ghosts of unwanted children killed by their parents. Because they were not baptized, Mylings cannot rest and are forced to roam until they can persuade a living being to carry them or their body to hallowed ground where they can rest peacefully. Failure to do so, or failure to carry a Myling in holy soil, will cause it to kill its potential benefactor in rage.
A very sad, like that is sad lore when it comes to ghosts. Is so sad.
They are literally children who were killed because their parents did not want them. Now, thankfully, it does not go into the methods by which they are killed, so I'm choosing to believe it's just like any kind. Like,
right,
being abandoned in the wilds, or being accidentally starved to death, or just neglected or stuff like that. Like, I don't see it as like ritual killing, like purposeful killing. I just see it as more like neglect.
Right. That's how I saw it, but again, I don't know a whole lot of Scandinavian folklore, and
Right.
I want to learn more because
unfortunately I don't.
I mean, I do, but I don't. Because that's pretty sad. But
yeah.
I do because that's interesting that they even have like. I know that in Catholic religion, Catholicism, that if your child is not baptized, they get stuck in limbo. And I feel like that kind of ties in with the Myling, except for Scandinavian took that and just like made it into a scary movie. Like that, I would hate to watch a Myling movie. Like that's scary. Also, hi Cypress.
Hi Cypress, welcome in. Okay. So I just saw that the Phasmophobia wiki has a little bit more information in the trivia section about Mylings, which are apparently pronounced Muling. That's what the wiki says, so I don't know how true that is. It says another way that the Myling can find peace is if it can find and kill its mother, which is typically the one who killed it in the first place. Usually it needs to be either carried by someone or get a form of permission to move or search from a relative in order to move from its burial place. This permission is usually obtained by trickery or vague wording of the request. They're usually depicted as small children at an early stage of decay, such as being swollen and having discolored skin, but can also choose to appear as an adult if that was the age they would have been had they been alive. Which I find really interesting, because typically when you think of like a ghost or a spirit, they're generally they appear in the form that they did when they died. Now demons can appear in any kind of form because they're not actual ghosts. But having like an actual ghost being able to appear as a child or as an adult, if it had been a ghost long enough to effectively reach adulthood had it been alive, I find that really interesting, because there's no other ghost that I know of that can do that.
Right. Yeah, same. Also, I'm gonna go back. Snowy, how many ghosts does Phasmo have now? 24. Yes, Cedar had it right. Myling or Mooling, I guess, a Scandinavian spooky one. Yeah. She also said she has no book specifically on Indonesian, but she's got Filipino folklore apparently. Folklore. I'm just words are hard today for me, guys. Maybe add.
We're streamers,
And
words
a
are
couple
hard.
of Pacific and Pacific Islander books. That's awesome. Either way it goes, pretty cool. And let's see here.
At the very end, saying in this book, it just says Hontu is the term for any invisible, frightening being, and the Malaysian sea god is Hontu air. That's interesting.
Interesting.
Also, I was today years old when I realized that Malay language and Malaysian are the same thing.
Oh fuck! I'm today's years old. I'm the big Tom. Look at me.
Wow.
Bam! Idiots. Right here. Two of them. Hello, let's wave. Hello, we're idiots. We learned today. Fuck. Okay.
Oh boy. Anyway, back to the Myling.
Back to the Myling.
Because I'm embarrassed about the Hontu now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave now.
I don't think there's much more to say about the Myling. We shared what we found through our research.
I mean, other than it's sad, but as far as what it would tie to with the Phasmo, I don't really see a humongous connection with it tying to Phasmo, like the lore that we have, and then how it ties into Phasmo. I don't know if I can see the connection, except for with the lore, with it being a child, that would explain why, you know, it's got the softer footsteps. Like, that's my only thought process there.
So, like we said, according to the journal in Phasmo, Myling is a very vocal and active ghost, but are rumored to be quieter when hunting their prey. The way I see this is that because it is a child, it's very vocal and active. It's trying to get someone's attention. It's trying to get that permission to be able to move from someone. And then once it goes on a hunt, once it decides it wants to kill someone, typical of like real world predator animals, they're going to try to be quieter. They're going to try to be more hidden so that their prey can't detect them.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way I see it. And I can't really think of anything else that would be.
Same. Like, this one was another one of those, it's hard to tie them together. Which is funny because, honestly, when we did our research and looked at Phasmo versus lore, it wasn't very uncommon for us to be able to make the connections between the two, except for just 3 or 4 maybe, that it was like, okay, well, I don't see how that's tying together.
Right. I think that goes kind of along with our next one, which is the Moroi.
The Moroi.
So this one is definitely one where we can tie it in. This is very, very clear from our research that we found and the lore in Phasmo. It's a very clear tie-in. So in Phasmo, in the journal, it says that Morois have arisen from the grave to drain energy from the living. They've been known to place curses on the victims, curable only by antidotes or by moving very far away. And the strength of the Moroi is the weaker their victims, the stronger the Moroi becomes. And the weaknesses, Moroi suffer from hyperosmia, weakening them for longer periods. Which, if I'm correct, the way that translates in-game is the longer you play. No, I'm thinking of something else. Hyperosmia is when you use the smudge stick on them, the Moroi is stunned for a longer period of time. 12 seconds as opposed to the typical 6 seconds.
Right.
And so the research that we did on Morois, like the real world counterparts, is that Moroids are a type of vampire in Romanian folklore who practice vampirism while still being alive. In modern usage, Moroi simply means ghost in Romanian. But the fact that they're considered vampires ties in very, very well with their ability in Phasmo to drain energy from the living. Because what do vampires do with the living? They bite them and drain their blood. And blood is the source of life energy.
The Things We Do at Night show. I think that's on FX. I'm not positive. I'll have to double check. But they have your typical vampires, which suck blood, and then they have this one who's kind of like an asshole or whatever, and he's an energy vampire, and he sucks the energy out of a person. Yeah, FX. Thank you, Snowy. And it's just, I thought it was funny because I'm like, so he's kind of like the Moroi, you know. He sucks the energy out of the room, basically. Energy.
I mean, technically, so do succubi, since Snowy mentioned them.
Yeah, they
just
also
a very
suck.
different kind of energy, and a very different kind of sucking. Anyway,
and that is also one of the new ghosts that was introduced with the latest patch for Phasmophobia.
Yep.
A psychic vampire. Right.
Yeah, they drain psychic energy.
Right. And so the next two ghosties? The next two ghosties are also the two new, of the three new ghosts that were introduced in Phasmophobia in their latest update. And that is the Diogen, which I probably am saying wrong.
I have no idea how to say it because Phasmophobia does not actually pronounce the names of the ghosts anywhere.
No, it doesn't. They just put the names out and you kind of just wing it.
So,
hope to God you don't fuck it up.
So with Diogen, we learn that the term Diogen is actually Dutch for literally the eyes. And it has a pronunciation guide here on the Phasmophobia wiki. But there's a letter here that I've never seen, so I don't know how it's pronounced. It could be Daogen or Daogen. I don't know. I don't know language.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've actually watched YouTube videos where I've heard him be pronounced both ways. So and ain't nobody saying, "Hey, you're wrong. Hey, you're right." I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't know. Whatever.
You know what? I want to look this up really quick. Why don't you go into the strengths and weaknesses of the Diogen?
I will definitely do that. So in the journal, they list the Diogen, I assume, sometimes surrounded by an endless fog. Diogen have been eluding ghost hunters for years. These ghosts have been reported to find even the most hidden prey before stalking them into exhaustion. And that is what the journal lists as. And then their strengths are always knows where the player is during the hunt and moves very fast when going to their location. Weakness is moves very slowly when it sees its victim. So when it sees you, or you see it, it moves a lot slower.
Which is kind of interesting because which is interesting because, like I said, Daogen or Daogen, I don't know. Actually, you know, I have it pulled up. Let's listen to how it's supposed to sound.
Let's do it.
Do that again. So apparently it's pronounced Daogen. Daogen. That's how it's pronounced in Dutch. I'm just gonna say Diogen because that's easier to say.
Yep, that doesn't hurt my throat nearly as much.
But like I said, in Dutch, it is Dutch for the eyes, to see. Because what do eyes do? They see.
They see. And I will say, it's funny that with Phasmo, the journal entry says it's surrounded by fog, that even in the lore for the Diogen, it literally says the tale is about a strange yellow-eyed fog haunting how do you say that? You would say
Sonian. Sonian.
Sonian forest. Sonian forest,
Something like
which
that.
likes to stalk its victims at night, moving slowly when being looked at and fast when being turned away from. It is literally almost another one that is verbatim, just like the demon, lore to Phasmo. They're the same. They play hide and seek.
Yep. And what's interesting in Phasmophobia specifically is because the Deogen always has a line of sight against you, many safe spots that take advantage of the ghost being unable to see the player will be invalidated. Death. And you can only use safe spots that keep the ghost at a distance instead of just blocking line of sight like a door.
Yep.
So yeah, they can always see you.
Always. You cannot hide. They are Liam Neesoning you.
And
They'll find you.
And yes,
and
they
will kill you.
They are very reminiscent of the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. So anyone who doesn't know, the Weeping Angels in Doctor Who are, well, one, they're terrifying because they are basically statues that, while you look at them, they are literally statues. They are stone. When you are not looking at them, they come alive and try to attack you. And they are blindingly fast when you're not looking at them. Like, if you're looking at one and you blink, it will move several feet closer to you. Span of a blink. And the Weeping Angels is exactly what SCP-173 is based off of. Mechanical Z. There's a very strong connection between those two creatures.
I always feel like somebody's watching me. It's the Deogen. What?
So I would kind of recommend Doctor Who, and kind of not, because Doctor Who's moved in a very odd direction from when it initially, from when it came back after like a 10-year hiatus. But yeah, if you want to know more about Doctor Who, just hit me up on Discord. I will be happy to tell you some more about Doctor Who, and probably a place to start. But yeah, like the Deogen is very reminiscent of the Weeping Angels, because like while you're looking at it, it's very, very slow or still, and then when you're not looking at it, it's very, very quick.
Very quick. Yep.
And like you said, they translated that perfectly into Phasmophobia.
Yep.
I think they did a good job with all three of these ghosts.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely did a much better job with the three new ghosts, with really getting them to tie with their lore, instead of just being like, oh, here's a name of a ghost and we'll kind of do this with it. Basically.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the Phasmo developers have actually gone through different like spirits or different beings in lore and picked ones that they could make strong gameplay mechanics off of, because that's kind of what it seems like.
Right.
And so they did it really well with the Moroi and the Deogen, and they also did it really well with the last ghost from the new update, the Fae, which in the Phasmo journal is said they are known to rapidly age over time, even in the afterlife. From what we've learned, they seem to deteriorate faster while within the presence of the living. So their strengths and weaknesses in the game is, their strength is upon entering the location, like meaning the house or building or wherever you are, they will become active, defensive, and very agile. And their weakness is that they will weaken over time, making them weaker, slower, and less aggressive. Which, the way that translates in-game is the more time passes, the slower they get, the less of a drain on your sanity they are, or that they have, the less, the fewer ghost interactions that they have. So if you go into a house and you immediately have like a lot of events happening at once, or in like rapid succession, which gradually peter out over time, it's very likely it's a Fae. So
Yep.
their real world counterparts, in Burmese, they are also known as the Sarai and the Tasei, and they are disembodied spirits that have many forms at once depending on the beholder. They come in the deep of night and cause minor nuisances. I'm not entirely
Not
sure how this translates. I guess I shouldn't have said earlier that they did a good job with this one.
right. I will say that, but this one it was very hard to get a lot of information on this particular ghost and its lore. Um, I'm not sure why we had such an issue, but we both were like, I can't really find too very much on the Fae except for that it is a ghost. It is an actual name of a ghost, but there's not much we can really find on it. Um, Without like doing some super serious digging,
Right.
which we both have lives and made it kind of difficult, to dedicate a whole day of just digging on a ghost. Thaye, Thaye.
Yep, just like that.
Yep.
So yeah, we had a lot of trouble finding like a lot of information, and the information that we did find actually came from someone else posting this on the Phasmophobia wiki
Right.
because we could not find a lot of information. That was pretty much our only source. And
Yep.
to be fair, we did not go into like a really super deep dive because, like Jan said, we both have lives. We don't really have time to go
Yep.
to basically a rabbit hole about different ghosts. Like we did what we could.
Also,
We effectively did preliminary research and found what we could, or in this case, almost nothing.
right. And if we were to go down a rabbit hole, y'all wouldn't have seen us for like another extra 3 weeks, because we would have went down that rabbit hole and around the corner and then down 2 more rabbit holes and turned another corner, stopped at McDonald's, got a burger and fries, and then went down another rabbit hole. I mean, we go for adventures.
And then probably got lost on our way to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
If anyone in chat does not get that reference, then get out of chat.
Bye.
I'm kidding. Please don't leave.
Don't do that. Don't leave. Yes, Burmese.
Yes. So, like I said, there's not really much that we found on Phase other than what someone else said on the Phasmophobia wiki. And so that we've come to the end of our list outside of the many Japanese spirits that are on this list. I believe there are, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that are specifically from Japanese lore. These are the Yurei, the Oni, Yokai, Goryo, the Onryo, Raiju, and the Obake.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and start at the top with the Yurei.
Yes. So with the Yurei, the Phasmophobia journal listed as a ghost that has returned to the physical world, usually for the purpose of revenge or hatred. So it is another type of vengeful ghost. And their strengths is it has a stronger effect on your sanity, and its weakness is smudging the Yurei's ghost room will reduce how often it wanders. And I thought that was interesting that when we were earlier talking about how, with the ghosts wandering and not wandering around, like, it's one of the few, even in beginners, that it kind of wanders, but not very, very far in beginners. The further up you go, the more it starts to really change rooms. And then the lore that we found for the Yurei, it's depicted in Japanese folklore meaning faint or dim, and soul or spirit. So it's like the faint soul or the dim spirit or things of that nature. Alternative names include Bore, meaning ruined or departed spirit, Shiryo, I believe that's how that would be pronounced, meaning dead spirit, or the more encompassing yokai or obake.
And I just
And
saw
that was
this.
literally it.
I just saw this little tidbit of trivia on the Phasmophobia wiki that I hadn't seen before. It reads, Yurei are Japanese folklore ghosts known for haunting specific locations at specific times, generally corresponding to the place and time of death. They are famous for having an appearance which strikes fear into their foes, often resulting in self-mutilation or suicide. Now, that makes me think of the Japanese tale of, I don't remember the girl's name, but she was so, I think like she was so obsessed with her beauty that I don't know how it led to this, but she ended up slicing the sides of her mouth. And that she appears in specific parts of Japan at specific times of the day, usually at night, and she wears a mask to hide the injuries. She tends to carry a pair of shears or some kind of knife. And then when she sees you, or when you see her, she will ask you if she is pretty. And basically, no matter what you say, like if you say yes, or if you say no, or if you just say anything else, she will become offended and she will attack you and try to carve your mouth to match hers to make you just as pretty as she is. I believe that's one of the most famous examples of a yurei from Japanese myth. For this one before, yeah, that is it's a very popular myth. At least I've heard multiple times in multiple different places. Kuchisake Onna, I guess I've never actually known the woman's name. But yeah, from what I can tell, that is a pretty strong example of a yurei. At least based on that tidbit of information on the Phasmo wiki.
Right. And I feel like the strengths and weaknesses for the yurei versus the lore is a little bit backwards because it does a little bit of wandering as far as like with its weakness. It tends to want to wander, but I do like how it has a stronger effect on your sanity, and then they have it in the journal that it's returned to the physical world usually for the purpose of revenge or hatred, which I will say that's kind of a blanketed term when you talk about ghosts, because typically when you talk about ghosts, yeah, they come back for revenge, hatred, or unfinished business.
Right.
But I will also say that the folklore for the yurei is it's interesting. It's interesting. Very interesting.
And yeah, like Faye is saying, the term that they posted there in chat translates as a slit-mouthed woman, which makes sense because she's usually, I say she because she's usually depicted as a woman with slits in her cheeks on right at her mouth right there. She could be considered a yurei or a yokai. Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. And like I said, when I looked up everything I looked up when it came to the yurei, it literally said it was like yurei, yokai, obake. Like it literally was like those three are literally almost one and the same, so to speak. And I even had to put asterisks next to it, which Mika later asked me because she was like, "Why do these have asterisks next to it?" And I was like, "Because they're the same. They're literally tied to the one ghost.
Almost interchangeable, right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And speaking of yokai, let's do that one next. I know that's not the next on the list, but because they are so closely related to yurei, let's go ahead and do those. So according to the Phasmo wiki, in the journal, yokai are common ghosts that are attracted to human voices. They can usually be found haunting family homes. Their strength is that talking near a yokai will anger it, increasing the chance of an attack. And the weakness is when hunting, a yokai can only hear voices that are close to it. Now, my only real knowledge, experience, whatever you want to call it, with yokai is from the series Yokai Watch. It is a video game series. It is kind of like Pokemon, but instead of capturing animals, you're capturing spirits. So I know yokai can come in many different forms, like many different shapes. And that kind of goes in. Yeah, like what Faye is saying, yokai is generally any sort of Japanese occult entity. So yeah, they can
Mm-hmm.
come in many forms, many shapes, many different sizes, many different personalities, what have you. And so the lore, the real world lore that we found for yokai are that they are figures in Japanese folklore. And the word yokai is composed of the kanji, or which is effectively Japanese letters or symbols, not exactly letters, but symbols.
Symbols, yeah.
They are composed of the kanji for attractive or calamity and apparition, mystery, or suspicious. Yokai are also referred to as ayakashi, mononoke, or mamano. Yokai behavior can range from malevolent or mischievous to friendly, fortuitous, and helpful to humans. They are typically described as having abilities, with shapeshifting being the most common trait associated with them. Which kind of goes along with what Faye was saying, how they're
Yes.
basically like any kind of uh, ghostly figure or occult figure is referred
Right.
to as a yokai.
Right. And I will say that this is one of those that it doesn't really tie too much with the Phasmo journal lore that they have, versus the lore of the yokai itself. Um, Outside of the shape shifting, I think is what we said, right?
Right.
Or was that a different ghost? I don't remember.
Yeah, different ghost. Because the thing
Different
with the
ghost. Okay.
yokai is talking. Like talking will anger it,
Talking.
and it
That's
can
right.
only hear
Yep.
voices that are close to it during a hunt.
I think what we were saying was we were saying how they should have put the yokai as the one that is shape shifting. That's right. That's where we were getting the shape shifting and the okay. Anyway, I feel like that kind of takes us to the, since the Yurei described the yokai and the obake, I feel like we should then move on to the obake itself.
I agree.
And the Phasmo Journal says that the Obake are terrifying shapeshifters capable of taking on many forms. They have been seen taking on humanoid shapes to attract their prey. This is where we were getting it backwards because
Right.
of that. And they have a strength of they may leave fingerprints that disappear quicker. And their weakness is they have a small chance of leaving 6-fingered fingerprints. Instead of the typical 5, they use 6.
To show off their shape shifting abilities. So,
Yes.
mechanically, I think it's only about 50% of the time where an obake will leave handprints that have 6 fingers. But they are the only ones that do that. So if you find a fingerprint and it has 6 fingers, it's basically like a handprint with an extra finger coming off the side there. Kind of like look like that. But if you do see that, it is 100% an obake. Or a mimic. Because a mimic can do anything other ghosts can do. But more likely it's an obake.
Right. And I know that when we were talking that we were like, oh yeah, so why would they not do the yokai and be the obake? And then we were doing our research and we were like, oh, okay, never mind. Because even in the lore for the obake, it literally is the term meaning a thing that changes, referring to the state of transformation or shapeshifting. The term obake can be a synonym for yurei, the ghost of a deceased human being, due to the influence of a large number of Hawaiian population with Japanese ancestry. On the islands of Hawaii, the term obake has found its way into the dialect of the local people. Hawaiian folklorist Glenn Grant was known for his Obake Files, a series of reports he developed about supernatural incidents in Hawaii. The grand bulk of these incidents and reports were of Japanese origin or concerned Obake.
Now, that's something that was really interesting because we both know a couple people who are native to Hawaii. Or
Yes.
at least, I feel like I know them more than you do. But still. Yeah, we know a couple people who were born and raised in Hawaii, so I actually kind of want to ask them about this to see what they know about Obake.
My uncle was raised in Hawaii, so I would like to ask him about it as well.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I should. Yeah.
We should have had them on the show as guests.
We should. We should.
That's for a future stream, though.
Cedar saying also Kitsune are Obake. I didn't know that. Interesting.
I didn't know that either. Which does make sense because Kitsune are shapeshifters.
It really does. It really does.
I believe they can shapeshift between a multi-tailed fox form and human form, if I'm not mistaken. Also, fun fact, that's where Vulpix and Ninetales come from. The Pokemon.
Right.
Because they are both multi-tailed foxes. And fun fact, Ninetales actually is said to have supernatural abilities as well. Like ghost-like abilities.
And isn't there Love, Death, and Robots an episode on the Kitsune?
There is. In that episode, it's basically... It's an allegory for how the rise of modern culture is effectively erasing the cultural history. So in this specific episode, there is a Kitsune who at the beginning is very powerful, who is able to fight off humans with her magic and her skills. But with the rise of technology in Japan, most notably during the industrial era, her powers wane as the technology drains the magic from the land. And it eventually ends with her embracing technological advancement, and instead of being able to transform from a human to a fox spirit, she becomes a robot, which is able to transform from humanoid form to vicious, predatory, fox-like form, and take revenge on the people that have wronged her. So, I guess the message is technology is good, but also that technology is bad.
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure what the message of that episode is, to be honest, but I am definitely there for Steampunk Kitsune.
Yeah. I thought they did a good take on it, and I was
They really
quite surprised I enjoyed it as much as I did. Like, I almost rewatched that episode, not gonna lie.
I kind of want to rewatch
I might
that
actually
now.
rewatch it again. Yeah.
I'm gonna rewatch it too.
Exactly.
The message was partially adapt or die, yeah. That does make sense. Alright, I believe
now,
the next
with those
one...
three out of the way, let's move on to the next, which was the Oni.
The Oni is a very, very popular figure in Japanese culture.
Yes.
It is, in Japanese folklore, an Oni is a kind of demonic ogre or troll, and can be seen as a type of yokai. They are usually portrayed as hulking figures with horns on their heads, sharp claws and tusks, and an odd skin tone such as red, green, and blue, and carrying large iron clubs. Now, in Phasmophobia, the journal for Phasmophobia reads, Onis love to scare their victims as much as possible before attacking. They're often seen in their physical form, guarding their place of death. Their strengths are that they are more active when more people are nearby, and have been seen moving objects at great speed. Their weakness, they are very active, making them easier to find.
Yeah.
So I will say this, my first experience with Onis from Japanese culture was in the anime Dragon Ball Z, where one of the main characters, Goku, is killed and goes to what is effectively hell, but because it is effectively an anime geared more towards kids, or at the very least like older kids, they don't say hell, they say the home for infinite losers, which is HFIL, instead of HELL, which is just the letters with a couple lines removed. It's effectively hell. And there are two characters in there, I don't remember their names, but they were Onis. They had a horn coming out of their head right in the middle. They carried large iron club or wooden clubs. They one had blue skin, the other had bright red skin, and they were very muscular, hulking figures. exactly what the description of an Oni is.
Yep. And it's funny though, I'm sure people can see behind my head, my husband is playing Dead by Daylight, that there's even a killer in Dead by Daylight that is called the Oni. And it literally carries around a large club. It's a big, humongous, scary looking samurai, but they also have it to where you can get other skins, but either way it goes, it has horns that come out. It's got a sword and it's also got a giant club. It goes into it enrages. I had to think of what it goes into when it does it. But it's just really really interesting that the Oni is so popular that it's put in so many other things as well, and not just one of those like, oh, that's cool, you have a ghost, like, but no one's ever really heard of it before. Like, no, when you hear of ghost types, especially when Japanese ghost types, the first one that typically will come to you is like an Oni. Like, people recognize an Oni because it's big, bulky, scary, gonna beat you to death.
Yep. And I may be misremembering this, but I think I heard a story a long time ago about how in it was either in the lead up to World War II or the aftermath of World War II. In Japanese culture and Japanese media, America was depicted as this very brutish Oni. It was basically, I think it was like a Japanese, kind of like a Japanese superhero comic, and this Oni that didn't specifically represent America, but everyone knew it represented America because it was red, white, and blue. Was this Oni was the main villain of this comic series, and I don't remember what the actual hero was, but like it was very very famous, and the Oni is very very present in Japanese media, at least from what I personally have seen. Like if you see a picture of an Oni, like gonna you're gonna recognize it even if you don't recognize what it is, because it's that prevalent.
Right. Yeah, I have to agree. 100%. I'm trying to think what all we really have left. We've got the Goryo and Anrio and Raiju. So we have 3 left.
I believe so, yeah.
Because this is where we kind of get a little lost, because then they get out of order. Because
Yeah.
we kind of bulked them around. And we'll go with the Goryo. And please let us know if at any point butchering happens with names, because
Okay, neither of
I'm a
us
ding
natively speak Japanese. So
zero.
I'm trying to do the best I can with what I know about the Japanese language, but I am American. I do not speak Japanese. I know I am butchering some of these words.
Got to be. Right. Same. So, in the journal entry, it says when a Goryo passes through the dots projector, using a video camera is the only way to see it. And
Which
for those
is
that don't play the game, the dots, literally you stick it either on a wall, on the ground, or whatever, and it puts up all the little bitty green dots, for you to be able to see if a spirit walks through it.
yep. And the Goryo is interesting because this is the first one that we've seen where the journal does not say any kind of lore about it. It is strictly mechanical for the gameplay.
Yes. Yeah. I always thought that was interesting that the other ones it's like, oh, here's our lore on it, but literally it's just the game mechanic itself. And it was kind of upsetting because when we did the research on it, it was like, well, you can't exactly tie the two together because there was nothing to tie them to, really.
Right.
Its strengths, it can only be seen interacting with dots through a camera when nobody is nearby. And the weakness is it tends to wander away less from its ghost room, so it typically likes to stay in the ghost room. Now, when we go ahead.
Just real quick, I just want to address what Faye was saying in chat about looks like it may have been one with Taro books. When I was talking about that Oni, I just looked it up, and I don't believe that's what I'm thinking of. I think it was like an actual like comic strip, or like a line of comics. But I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I heard about it, so I could very well be wrong. Sorry, please continue.
We have actually slept since then.
Yeah. Please continue.
Now, with the actual folklore, the Japanese folklore for it, it stands for the honorable spirit. It is which is funny because it says, is a vengeful, aristocratic ghost, particularly one that has been martyred. Their most prominent power involves causing natural catastrophes such as the destruction of crops or the summoning of typhoons or earthquakes. And that's literally the only lore that I could really get in bulk at a quick glance for it, which was still pretty interesting. And I think it's funny that it stands for the honorable spirit, yet it's also the vengeful aristocrat, so to speak.
Yeah, and the aristocrats are the ones that, well, at the same time, they have the most honor and the least honor. Which is really interesting to think about. Probably don't think about it too much.
Right.
Because I'm just reading what Faye said in chat about the Taro series.
Oh, you're fine. And again, so there's not really much that we had to be able to tie the Goryo to Phasmo's Goryo. Like, there's nothing really to tie the two together. They have no real similarities because there's no lore when it comes to what the journal entry says. So there was, it was an interesting read. A very quick, interesting read. At least on our behalf when it came to looking at the lore for it. So then it takes us on to the Onryo. So the Onryo in the, I lost my place, there it is, in the journal entry, it says it's often referred to as the wrathful spirit. It steals souls from the dying victims' bodies to seek revenge, has been known to fear any form of fire, and will do anything to be far from it. So, that being said, the Onryo, its strength is a flame extinguishing. Like, if you extinguish the flame, it can cause the Onryo to attack. And its weakness is the presence of flames reduces its ability to attack. So, come on! Flame off. I mean, that's literally its strengths and weaknesses, you know. So it doesn't like fire. Fire bad. That's literally what I get from, you know, which is funny because there's only like one major area that's got an actual like fire pit, and that's one of the newer maps that they had put out, the campsite.
Campsite. I tried to say campsite and campground at the same time.
Let's go camping to the camp sound.
I find it interesting that the Phasmo lore for this ghost goes into like all the different things about fire, when the actual real world lore that we found says nothing about fire.
Nothing.
See, what we found reads that in Japanese traditional beliefs and literature, the Onryo, which literally means vengeful spirit or sometimes wrathful spirit, refers to a ghost.
That's the big connection there.
Yeah, that's like
it's in the journal.
Yeah, like that's like the only real connection between these.
Right.
It refers to a ghost believed to be capable of causing harm in the world of the living, injuring or killing enemies, or even causing natural disasters to exact vengeance to redress the wrongs it received while alive, and taking spirits from their dying bodies. Onryo are often wronged women who are traumatized by what happened during life and exact revenge in death.
Whoa, I have missed a period and mistyped nice big old typo on revenge there. My bad. I was typing and watching something at the same time, so I was just,
No, it happens.
Words
Words are hard. We're streamers.
Yep.
Words are hard.
They certainly are. And that takes us to the last one. Unless you want to discuss a little bit more about the Onryo, there's really not too very much to tie the two together, except for the fact that they had the first line that we had in the lore itself. Their lore and our lore had the same first line, that it literally means vengeful or wrathful spirit.
Yep. The only other thing that I want to say is this little tidbit of trivia on the Phasmophobia wiki. That the famous Grudge Ghost from the Ju-On franchise, which is also known as the Grudge in westernized version, was said to be an Onryo. It attacked whenever lighting was either lit or extinguished in swift action, as a reminder of its violent death. Any sudden movements produced in front of this ghost were interpreted as hostile, and it was usually depicted as a young girl, which follows in with part of the lore that we found, where it says that they were often wronged women who were traumatized by what happened during their life and exact revenge in death. That is pretty much the definition of a grudge, is getting revenge.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. Interesting.
It does.
I never would have thought to tie the two together, but now, interesting.
It makes perfect sense.
I got it. Sure, yeah.
Yep.
For real.
And then, like you said, the last one on our list is the Raiju, which, according to the Phasmo wiki in the journal, a Raiju is a demon that thrives on electrical current. While generally calm, they can become agitated when overwhelmed with power. Their strength is that they can siphon power from nearby electrical devices, making them move faster. And their weakness is that they are constantly disrupting electronic equipment when attacking, making them easier to track. This definitely kind of fits in with the lore that we found for Raiju, their real counterparts, because Raiju literally translates to thunder animal or thunder beast. It is a legendary creature from Japanese mythology whose cry sounds like thunder. While the beast is generally calm and harmless during thunderstorms, where there's more power in the atmosphere, there's more electricity in the atmosphere, it becomes agitated and leaps about the trees, fields, and even buildings. Another of the Raiju's peculiar behaviors is sleeping in human navels, but other legends say that
weird.
Yeah, but other legends say that the Raiju will only hide in the navels of people who sleep outdoors. I don't know how they could possibly put that in Phasmophobia.
Right. Also, that just sounds so counterintuitive. You got Thunder Beast, but it's gonna take a nice little nap in your belly button.
Yep.
Like, what? You're not scary at all, you little piece of lint. Flick you out of there. Like, when I read that, I immediately was like, what? Did I read that wrong?
Well, I did say at the beginning that the reason we lumped the Japanese ones all together at the end is because there are many, many different kinds of Japanese spirits or ghosts. Some of them appear in very specific circumstances. Some of them have very specific abilities, like the Raiju sleeping in people's belly buttons.
This nice little nap. Don't mind me.
So I like the way they brought the lore of the Raiju over into Phasmophobia, because it is literally known as the thunder animal or thunder beast, and it draws power from electricity.
Yep.
But lightning and thunder go hand in hand.
Yep. Yeah, I'm really glad they didn't tie in the navel sleeping together.
How would they even do that?
I don't know. But it'd be weird. It's weird to read it. It was weird to type it. It's just weird. Like,
Yep.
I don't want to go camping anymore. I don't want to go to the camp sound anymore.
God damn it. Alright. So, I know one of the abilities of the Raiju in game of Phasmophobia is it is more likely to make electric lights burst and unusable.
Yes.
And I know
Yes.
that they are often very, very quick to turn off light switches.
Yeah.
Because I've seen videos of people where they're in a house, they immediately flip a light switch on, and it immediately turns off. They flip it on again, it immediately turns off. That is not a definitive sign of a Raiju, because that can happen with other ghosts, but it is far more likely to happen with a Raiju.
Yeah. Yeah, it's way more common. I know there's been a few times where even we've been playing and we'll turn on a light and it almost like it I think it happened to you. You turn on a light and it was like in the basement or something and it immediately burst over your head and you were like, "Oh, well,
It
I
wasn't in the
wasn't
basement. It was in a hallway of one of the smaller houses.
That's right. Yeah, it was a hallway. That's right. That's right. And it was just so funny because you're like, I'm gonna turn this light switch on. I'm like, okay, and it just like burst, and you're like, well, never mind.
It did.
Okay.
It did destroy the light, so I couldn't use it anymore. So.
Yep, and it was instant too.
It was. It really was instant. And I think that is the end of our list. Covered all
really
24 different types of ghosts in Phasmophobia.
And we were worried we wouldn't get through them all.
I know, right?
We did a big success.
We did do a big success.
Phasmo, please don't add any more ghostesses, because then we won't.
Right.
Well,
right.
from here on, we'll just cover the new ones. How's that? Bam. Add as many as you want, not 24 more, please don't. This was very long. I have to pee.
Yeah. So we are about 20 minutes until the end of the show, and I did say that we were going to do at least one game of Phasmophobia. If you really need to go to the bathroom, then you want to take like a minute or two break and go, and I will keep everyone entertained.
Intermission.
Intermission.
Quick Mika mission. Mika mission.
I don't actually have an intermission screen for our show. It's something I probably need to do. But yeah. So Phasmophobia is one of our favorite games. Me and Jan have played it a lot together. I think I have, God, how many hours in Phasmo do I have now? I have a lot of hours in Phasmophobia. I have 57.1 hours, so not a lot in the grand scheme of things, I guess, but we do play fairly often. We're getting pretty good at it. So we played a game last night on my stream, and unfortunately I got Jan killed pretty quickly by using one of the haunted items or cursed items that I didn't realize would break as quickly as it did. And then we did manage to figure out what the ghost was. Have you done an episode on the SCP? We have not. That is something I've thought about doing, but there's just so much lore to the SCP universe that I don't think we could properly cover it in a single show. Or even multiple shows. But that is something I have thought about, and I'm trying to think of ways to properly do an SCP episode. Possibly by talking about some of the more famous ones, like 173, which started it off, or was it 3008? I think might be the Infinite IKEA. Then there's also one that is...
Sorry.
Yeah, then there's also...
Infinite IKEA.
Infinite IKEA. There is an SCP that is an IKEA that you cannot find your way out of, because it is infinite once you go in.
Well, that's kind of my first experience at an IKEA is going to be in, like, SCP. I'm not going to know where to go and how to get out.
Have you never been to IKEA?
Forever. I've never been to IKEA.
Seriously? Wow.
Never, ever, ever. Never been to IKEA. Is it scary? Should I go?
No, because you'll be trapped there.
I will be trapped.
Alright, so
yeah, the nearest one to me is legit in St. Louis, and it's not in a very, very good spot of St. Louis, so...
Yeah, fair enough. The nearest one to me is in a pretty good area, actually. And it's huge. They literally build them like a maze inside. But there are arrows pointing the way out.
Well, that's good.
But yeah,
But like I said, ours
it's
is
a
in a
maze.
really bad area, so now I'm kind of wondering if they still have the arrows or not.
So the arrows in the IKEA near me are actually lights filtered down from the ceiling. They're not like painted on the floor or anything. So
So I should go at night.
you can't get rid of them.
Or go on a stormy day.
Well, no, because they're light bulbs.
Oh, I thought you meant like it was like a skylight or something.
No, it's like light bulbs that have like a cover over them in the shape of the arrows that shine onto the ground.
Interesting.
So you can't steal them.
So just cut the power. So cut the power and then you're lost.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get you lost, okay? That just leave me alone. I'm trying to get you lost in an IKEA.
I don't want to be lost in an IKEA. Anyway, let's move on to Phasmophobia.
Let's do it. Are we gonna get out? No, we can't. Normally we're not in Discord when we play Phasmo because it takes away from the enjoyment.
Yeah. Can't really leave Discord though, because then that would end the call.
I can mute my microphone in Discord.
That's true. That's true. We could do that.
I'm doing it.
Just do that as well. Go. So hopefully everyone can still hear me. Gonna have to alert Phasmo, too spoopy for me to watch. Fair enough. Oh, why is it showing Spotify? Don't show Spotify. I need to go. There we go. Alright, multiplayer. Wow, there's some going. Anyway. Create private. Jan, there's the invite code.
Phasmo is not too spoopy. Come on. Especially not when I play. I'm over here cussing the ghost out. Okay. Enter in the code and I'll join you in the lobby. Give me a second.
Sounds good. Alright, I'm gonna add everything I can. I'm probably gonna die.
Testing.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Yes, success.
Alright, I've
Okay,
added
what do we need?
I've added everything I can. I don't know what else we need. You could probably use more video cameras. Oh, we don't need that many strong flashlights. Alright, so for anyone who doesn't
you got
know...
two strong flasher lights?
Yep, got two strong flasher lights. So for anyone who doesn't know,
stacks?
Phasmophobia is basically a ghost hunting game. The objective of the game is to identify what kind of ghost it
How many
is.
photo cameras we got?
I only have one.
There, now we have 3.
Perfect. But the main objective is to find or figure out what kind of ghost it is. It will be one of the 24 ghosts that we just went
That's
through.
fine. We don't need them. We got UV lights.
I thought I had a bunch of glow sticks last time, but apparently not, because I don't have any.
Okay, let's see here.
Alright, so just a warning, the game can get a little bit spooky.
So I brought the parabolic microphone just so this way everybody can see. I wanted to bring at least one so people could see it.
Fair enough, and if we do happen to be lucky enough to run into a Banshee, maybe we'll be able to hear the Banshee's wail.
Yep. Should I add a second tripod? Or no?
Up to you.
I'll add one more video camera and one more tripod. There, that's good. Ready up.
Sounds good. And here we go. So as is usual, I load in first because I just load in first very quickly every single time. So here's the objective board. Objective 1 is always going to be figure out what kind of ghost it is, and the other two, or the other three objectives, I'm sorry, are going to be randomly determined by whatever is on the list. Hopefully it'll be things we can do. If not, then, well, we'll be able to do them. Hello.
Oh, that first game.
Don't worry, I kept everyone entertained for you. Alright, detect a ghost presence with a motion sensor, we can do that. Have a member of your team witness a ghost event, we can certainly do that. Prevent the ghost from hunting with a crucifix, that one's going to be tough, but we can do that.
I had to do that again where I had to go into my options and apply my microphone, even though it was already applied.
Really? Wonder why that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Alright, so I have grabbed flashlights and a photo camera and a thermometer, as is my usual.
Okay, I got EMF camera and flasher light.
Alright, here we go. So using the thermometer, I'll be able to see which room the ghost is in easier. Because, see, in here, the temperature is about 20 degrees. So if I go into another room where the ghost is, it will significantly drop to most likely below 10 degrees. So not in this room. So light switch somewhere. Oh. Do we know if the breaker's in the garage or the basement?
It's gotta be in the basement because it's not in the garage.
It is indeed in the basement. It is on. Hey. I wasn't even paying attention to the thermometer. Okay, not that room. There's no really other room down here. So I'm basically looking for temperatures
Mika,
that... Yes, hi, hello.
I'm pretty sure we're playing the same game we were playing yesterday because it's a mirror again. Don't touch it, please.
I won't touch it. Alright, well, I'm gonna go back up and look upstairs and look for the bone. Yeah, so yesterday I used the haunted mirror and
Hey, the bone's
accidentally
not in this bathroom,
killed
so
Jan.
it's not 100% the same game.
Yeah, pretty close though. I accidentally killed Jan with the haunted mirror yesterday because
Or I'm not seeing anything exciting.
because the more you use the mirror, or the longer you use the mirror, the more likely it is to break, and if the mirror breaks, it starts a cursed hunt. Which is more dangerous. I don't know exactly how much more dangerous. So right now I'm just going through the rooms looking for a room that has a bone in it, which is usually pretty obvious there's a bone, or a room that is lower temperature. I see no bone up here.
I have not seen any dots. Or orbs. My B.
So the best way to figure out the temperature is by standing in a room for about 2 or 3 seconds and letting the thing update.
It's gotta be up here, because this closet's got shit all in it.
Which closet?
The second one. That one. So I'm thinking it's either up here or in the living room.
Oh, well, we'll find out soon enough.
Excuse me?
I'm dead already. The fuck? I didn't think it could hunt and kill that fast. Well, we know where the ghost is now, at least.
The hell?
Whoops. Okay, so now I am dead. Where did she go? So all the items that I brought, I lost them all. Which means I have to rebuy all of them. Holy shit, that thing is fast. Wow, that thing was fast.
Is it gone? Can I get out now? Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm scared.
So I'm trying to show her the way to the ghost. Because I saw it come from the back room back there.
So it's downstairs, it seems. Oh man, I'm the big scared. Throw this down for a minute.
I'm going to try to leave a trail and see if she picks up on it. Oh, can I not pick those up? I can't pick those up.
Oh shit, there's your body. Two.
Yeah, it came from back here.
It's in the kitchen. I'll figure this out. Boop. $38, 36, 41.
Oh, I died before we got any evidence.
So, boop. Alright, I gotta get more shit.
So there's not really much I can do.
Move this.
Besides, like, try to help her figure out where it's at. Like, it's either in here or back here. Because it came out of this doorway to kill me right here. So yeah, I'm dead. There's not really much I can do. Also, the ghost killed me, and that still did not count as witnessing a paranormal event.
Keep pushing all the wrong fucking buttons. I'll get there eventually.
So yeah, so I'm sorry, but the rest of this game is gonna kind of be boring. Because I'm already dead. I'm gonna go find a picture frame or something. Or a block? Can I do a block? I can do a block.
Some dots for you. Have fun. Why are you throwing shit at me? Oh, blocks. Cool, thanks. Are you old? Are you young? Are you near? Are you far? Are you French? Excuse me. I didn't need all that.
Was that a spirit box thing? I didn't hear anything from the box, but it could have been. I don't know. Because one of the evidence is spirit box. Basically, you ask a question, like, are you here? Are you friendly?
They did not like me asking the questions.
And if you get a response, then that's one of the evidence, is spirit box.
You've been touching stuff, Ghostas?
Another evidence is if the pen for this journal starts, just stands up and starts writing, that's ghostwriting. That's an evidence. This green dot grid here, that's the dot's projector. So if the ghost, if we see the ghost move through it, then that's dots. That's one of the evidences. If we get a level 5 on the EMF reader here, you can see it's currently at 1. If we get a 5, then that counts as an evidence. I did not think I would die this quickly. I didn't think the timer had run out for the ghost to be able to hunt yet, so I ran into it thinking it was a haunt. So a haunt is the ghost is trying to scare you, but it doesn't actually hurt you. So I was expecting a haunt and got a hunt.
I'm just gonna walk on your body, hope you don't mind.
I want to throw shit at her. Oh, hey, there's the bone.
Found the bone. Yay! What? What? I found the bone. It was on the car.
Where's she going?
Now I'm looking for the cursed object.
The cursed object. Shattered Rift, welcome in. Thank you for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. If you don't already know me, my name is ShinyMikablu. I play a lot of indie horror games on stream. Tonight is supposed to be my horror talk episode with Vineyardtrio. We were discussing the different ghosts of Phasmophobia, and now we're playing around to Phasmophobia to just kind of like show off where it came from. She cannot hear me because I am dead.
Thanks.
So, yeah, everyone, welcome in.
Thank you for writing in my book.
Sparkbot could defeat Shrimplebot? No, I don't think so.
You're the best. Are you French?
Let me give you a shout out.
I didn't even see what EMF that was, friend, but thank you.
What were you playing? Oh, right, tonight was Mario Kart night. I forgot about that. I'm sorry, I should have been there. How did Mario Kart go, Rift? Ronenbot would crush both Shrimp and Spark? No, he wouldn't. Sparkbot's the winner. Or no, Shrimplebot is the winner. I said Shrimplebot is the winner. Ronan, welcome in. How are you doing? I'm just waiting for Jan to finish figuring out what kind of ghost this is.
Did you take a picture of the mirror? I hope so.
I did not get a picture of the mirror. I completely forgot. Seems officially R6. Got to show off new lighting and collectible stuff. Nice.
How old are you? Oh, I saw it on dots.
So we look pretty quick here. Need to check in with the wife and Turf's having a rough toe. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, we're not going to be going for too much longer. Because we were supposed to end a couple minutes ago, but this game of Phasmo is going a little bit longer than we had planned. Yeah, for anyone who missed the discussion about the different ghosts in Phasmophobia, this will be going up on YouTube. Probably either Wednesday or Thursday. It'll be going up on YouTube on my channel. So yeah, feel free to go back and rewatch and offer
Well,
any kind of comments.
I'm gonna say it's a Diogen because I don't see any ghost orbs.
I don't know what the other I don't know what the other evidences are, so I'm just gonna trust that Jan knows what she's talking about. Have a block. Force her to decide between game yourself.
All right, you good?
Put it to roulette and
Thought I saw you mouth the word. Yeah, see, I just saw it on dots again. Okay. Bounce the block twice for no. Bounce the block once for yes. Okay.
that is a yes. Oh shit, I need to actually click Diogen. Oops, almost missed it. If it didn't actually click it, it wouldn't count. And it was a Thay.
Oh, damn it.
Well, shit. And I lost all
I
my
didn't see
shit.
no ghost orbs.
I can't believe I died so quickly.
I know. I heard the weird noise, and I was
I
like,
didn't
oh god,
realize
where
that
is it?
I didn't realize that the time was up, so I ran right towards where I heard that sound coming from. I thought it was a haunt, not a hunt. And it just straight up killed me as soon as I got to it. It was going fast too. Like the second time it
That's
hunted,
why I was
I
thinking
really
it was
thought
a Diogen because I heard you say it's fast, and I was like, oh boy.
the second time it hunted, like right after it had killed me, when it was chasing you up the stairs, I couldn't keep up with it. I ran and I couldn't keep
Right.
up with it.
And when I turned to face it, it literally was like I could hear it slow down, and I backed up into the master bedroom, and that's when I was like, okay, clearly it's got to be one of the new ones. But I don't remember. I'm so
Right.
scared right now. I don't remember which one it is.
Right. All right. I'm gonna drop out of Phasmo and then unmute my mic on Discord. Okay, I just got the host alert from that raid that went through like what 5 minutes ago.
Right.
All right. Well, I believe that is our show for the night.
That was fun.
That was fun. Besides me dying so early, but I think we
Well,
had.
hey, look, last night you killed me really quick. Tonight you ran headfirst into death. So
I should not be a ghost hunter.
we need to stop picking that house because clearly it keeps giving us the mirror and death.
Apparently so. We did have really good discussion about the different ghosts tonight. And anyone in chat who was not able to catch that, the VOD is still there. It will be there for I think 2 weeks, and this video will be going up on YouTube later this week. So definitely, if you're interested in learning more about the Phasmophobia ghosts and their real world, like the real world lore, definitely check it out. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for the show tonight.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. So for anyone in chat who does not know, anyone who came with the raid maybe, I am ShinyMikablu. I do a lot of indie horror games here on stream. I do a lot of just regular horror games in general, mostly indie horror games. I stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and every other Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. It is always the same time. So very easy to catch, just remember the days. Tell me a little about yourself.
And I am Vineyardtrio, or Jan, not to be confused with Jen. Jen is my sister, legit, my sister, curviously Jen. And I will get back to streaming as soon as our internet stops being country bumpkin internets. Yeah. Because if I was to try to stream this as well, then Husbando could not be playing DBD behind me as well. So anyway, um, but yes, I'm Vineyard Trio, Jan. When I do get back to streaming, it'll be also doing a lot of horror games and any other kind of games I feel like playing at the time. Typically, I like to be scared, and then I also do cooking streams on the occasion. Um, so yeah, keep hanging out here. You'll find us together every other Monday, as Mika said, where you'll see me, and I'll probably give you an update to as soon as I can start streaming again. So, woo.
Sounds good to me. And if any of you in chat have any other ideas for different topics that we can discuss on Horror Talk, or different games, different movies, or novels, etc., whatever you want to see us talk about,
Yes.
definitely let us know. You can whisper either of us here on Twitch, or the best way to get in contact us is by talking to us over Discord. You can join my Discord server. It is right there. You can also join Jan's Discord server, which is linked right above mine. And that's honestly the best way to talk to us is over Discord.
Yep.
All right, and with that, I think it's going to be time to say goodnight. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for engaging in chat. Thank you for just having those chats with us. Jan, thank you for being my lovely co-host for this evening. And
Thank you for being my co-host. Sexy thing.
And that is going to be where we sign off for the night. I hope everyone has a very good night, and we will see you later.
Bye.
Bye.